At this time, anybody in Good and Welfare would like to come up and say anything? Okay, hearing none, we're going to go to the first agenda item, which is our audit. And we have Mr. Fearman here to...
All right, good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. For the record, my name is Andrew Fearman. I'm a partner with Alberni Caballero and Fearman, and I'm a partner with Alberni Caballero and Fearman, and I'm the partner in charge of the village's audit.
Yes.
I'm here to provide a brief presentation on the village's financial statements for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2016. The first thing I'd like to point out within here is within the financial section, which is on pages 1 and 2, which is our independent auditor's report. And it's broken out into various sections. The first section gets into what we've audited. It states, we have audited the accompanying financial statements of the Village of El Portal, Florida, as of and for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2016. Now, the second section gets into management's responsibility for the financial statements. It states, management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements. The third section gets into our responsibility as auditors, as well as under what standards we performed our audit. It states, our responsibility is to express opinions on these financial statements based on our audit. We conducted our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America and government auditing standards. The last section I'm going to point out is the fourth section, which is the opinion section, which is the most important section. It states, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the village as of September 30th, 2016. Now, that's an unmodified or a clean opinion, and it's, of course, the only opinion that you want on a set of financial statements you're associated with. So this is a clean opinion on the financial statements. The next thing that I wanted to point out is it begins on page 3, and it runs through page 11, pages 3 through 11, which is the management's discussion and analysis. And within this section here, what I really want to point out is that basically if you don't read anything else in the document, you should read this because it provides a lot of good information on the village as well as the year. It compares current year to prior year and provides explanations for what happened. So there's a lot of good information here, and it's a very good overview, and it's written from management's perspective. So a lot of good information in there. The next section is the basic financial statements, which basically runs from pages 12 through 17. And the basic financial statements includes the government-wide financial statements as well as the fund financial statements. And within there, there's nothing specific to point out within there, but just that they need to be read in conjunction with the notes to the financial statements, which the notes to the financial statements begin on page 18. And the notes to the financial statements is the required disclosures, which provide additional information on the village, as well as detail of the numbers that are presented within the basic financial statements. So it gives you the whole story by reading the notes to the financial statements. So I do suggest that you do read them in conjunction with the financial statements. The last section that I'd like to point out within here, actually the second to last section I want to point out is actually the required supplementary information. This section includes required information that the GASB requires to be provided, which is basically budgetary comparison information for the general fund as well as for a few of the other funds, in addition to information on the pension plan that's included within there as well. That's not included within our audit report. We don't give an opinion on it, but we do review it to make sure there's no material inconsistencies with what's presented within the financial statements, and that is required by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board within there. So that includes the information again on the budget. The last section is the compliance section, and that includes the reports that are required under generally accepted government auditing standards, as well as the rules of the Auditor General of the state of Florida. And within there, I want to point out that there are matters noted in there there's a material weakness, significant deficiency in internal control, as well as matter of non-compliance. There's a few that are repeated from the prior year, and that's basically because of the timing of last year. We do expect that those will be cleared in the coming year. for the next audit, but there are those that are repeated, and there are also a few that aren't repeated. And if I was going to point out a page within there that gives a good summary of the prior year findings and status, it can be found on page 55. And that explains the ones that are being repeated and the ones that are not repeated in the current year. In addition to that, if you haven't received it already, you will also receive our communications to those charged with governance letter. It's this letter we provide every year. We provide one at the beginning of the audit and one at the end of the audit. And this is the one that we provide at the end of the audit, which is the required communications that we're required to communicate to you as those charged with governance. And it's required under our professional standards. And within there, we are pleased to report that we did not have any issues in performing and completing our audit. We received the information on a timely basis to be able to perform our procedures, to be able to render our opinion. And we're here presenting finalized issued financial statements prior to the deadline, so everything's going to be submitted this year on time. And overall, I just want to thank David, Irwin, and just the rest of the village team for their assistance and cooperation throughout the process. Again, there was no disagreements and no significant issues in performing our audit. And thank you for letting me be here tonight to talk about my report, and I'm here to answer any questions that anyone may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any at this time. Thank you. I don't know if the council does.
Thank you.
Irwin?
We're going to take a look at the financial statements for the 8 months ended May 31st, 2017. If you'd all kindly turn to the first page.
Yes.
Okay. First, we're going to take a look at the revenues of the general fund. You can see that we're now two-thirds of the way through the year, so we can see how we're benchmarking against what our budget is. First of all, just note that on our ad valorem taxes, we've already collected 95% of the ad valorem, and I'm anticipating with certificate sales in the month of June, we're going to be at 100% by the end of June. So the ad valorem's right on. You notice that on down going to the franchise fees, that the percentage of 46.83 are a little bit low, but just so you know, FPL is always 1 to 2 months behind on giving us the invoices for the revenue for specific months. So this will catch up once we get their invoices into the end of the year. Same thing for utility fees, exactly the same thing. The one area I point out that I think we're going to end up a little bit soft for the year is going to be under licenses and permits for our building permits. At the end of the year, I'm anticipating we're going to be a little short on what we had budgeted at the beginning of the year. But it's very difficult because you really don't know what building is going to be taking place during the village during that 12-month period. So it may catch up in the summer months, but from my experience, typically it's slower in the summer months. There's not more activity in the summer months, so we'll have to wait and see how it falls. I am working on, and I have given David a preliminary projection for where I think we're going to end up the year, but it's still in the preliminary stage, and once I finalize it a little better, I'm preparing to hopefully present that at the next meeting next month. Intergovernmental revenues are fine. Charge for services. If you go down to the charge for service, you'll see we budgeted for hall rentals $15,000 for the year, and there's no way we're going to reach that. We've been averaging about $300 to $400 a month, so if you take that times the 4 months left in the year, it's about $1,600 onto the 32. We're going to do about 5. We had budgeted 15, so we're going to be off about $10,000 on the hall rentals to the end of the year. Turning the page, if you look at the, you'll see under proceeds of vehicles, $10,000 is nothing yet. That will change also by the end of September. The new cars, police cars, are expected in, I believe, in July or August. Is Chief still here? He's not. July or August. And when they do come in, there's 3 cars, older cars, that we will be putting up for auction, which will bring in about $4,500 to $5,000 by the end of the year for the proceeds on those old cars.
Each car or all three cars?
Sorry?
Each car or three
No,
cars?
no, about 1,500 a car.
Total?
Yeah, they're very old. If you turn the page, we're going to take a look at each one of the department budgets now. Village Council is first. The only line item that's over is for the mayor for the travel. We know she's done a lot of traveling, but it's also produced results. So, I mean, I don't think that it's going to be a big issue, but we are over on that one line. Right now, we're about $2,000 over on that line. Everything else is fine and in place. If we take a look, discretionary funds is also slightly over. Werner, I did get your email. I haven't had a chance yet. I made the two things you did. The first one's already been changed.
I
Did you
noticed.
notice?
Thank you.
Okay. And on the second one, I'll get back to you by the end of the
Sure.
week. I'll
Thank
get
you.
that back to you on that. But if we look at the discretionary, the mayor is maxed out right now, but we have some people that have not used any yet. So, I mean, if they're not going to use it, I'm sure she wouldn't mind if we transferred some over to her, but right now it's all online except for that one line item. Finance Administration, next page, 5 of 15. It's really the same things we've said every single month. There really have been no differences on where the overages are. It's the same explanations every month. Contractual services is slightly over. We have the unbudgeted for the employment insurance, which is for the unemployment that was submitted that we had to pay, and some other minor ones. But it's really not that much over because we should be at 66%. We're at 69%, so it's over a little bit, but it's not too bad. Planning and zoning. Planning and zoning, we are significantly over, but I'm going to make one recommendation and change. Right now, we have a budget of $45,000 for master plan, with an expenditure against that so far at 57, and that is after already transferring $61,000 over to stormwater for the sewer master plan. Okay, so in reality, this item was about $118,000 before I transferred that over to stormwater. And what I recommended to the manager yesterday, that if any of the Craig Smith Consulting, which falls under this master plan consultant, had to do with stormwater and would also involve streets and roads, we could transfer that over to the special revenue budget and remove it from the general fund budget and relieve $45,000 budgeted line item and a $57,000 expense line item and move it over to that fund that could absorb that $57,000 very easily, because the special revenue fund has a balance over $200,000 in it. But that's the major item, and we're also going to come a little bit over on the cap fees. And again, that cap fees is a combination of both the monthly fee that was paid before Elena became an employee,
Right.
and it also includes the 50% of the building permits that we have to pay. So that is another line that's going to be slightly over. Turn the page to next department, which is for village clerk. Well under budget. There's no overspending. There's really nothing to talk, unless anyone wants to say anything. There's really nothing to say on that department. Public affairs. You see that negative 123,000, but if you turn the page, you'll see on the next page showing the revenues and expenses for all the events. We have collected $15,400 in revenues against those expenditures. So if you take the $36,000 in expenditure and you deduct the $15,000 we've collected in revenue, we're at $21,000 versus a budget of $29,000. So if you look at the net, we are not over year to date. And I'm projecting to the end of the year, between the 4th of July, there was Horace Mann, a couple of others we hadn't spent anything on yet, that we should come to about $6,000, so we still should not be over by the end of the year,
Raise more money.
as long as we don't overspend on the remaining events.
Yeah, we have 4th of July left and backpack giveaway in August. Those are the big ones.
Questions on public affairs before I move on? Next department, police department. You can see that year-to-date, we are not over. There is going to be one major change, of course, on my projection, is that the police cars are going to come in by the end of the year, and that's going to add a $146,000 expenditure line item to the police budget. So we will be required to do a mid-year budget amendment to modify the police budget to include the purchase of the cars, which we will do. Any questions on police before I move on? Code enforcement, really nothing to say. It's well below the limit. Public Works, same thing. We're at 55%. We should be at 66%, so we're well within the threshold. Questions on Public Works? All right, let's turn to the, I'm going to skip the special revenues. There's really not too much to say on that, except the good news is we have collected the $107,000 from CITT. Remember, we were supposed to get it in? I have submitted all the required budgets to the Miami-Dade stormwater for the stormwater monies that come in. We haven't heard back from Mr. White yet but the fact that I haven't heard back, I think, is a good sign because we submitted the budget and they should be releasing the funds for the stormwater revenue also. And for those that don't remember, that's the amount of about $13,000 to $14,000 per quarter that we collect in stormwater revenues. But that has been submitted. If you turn to the last page, we can take a look at our cash position as of the end of May. You can see that we currently have $2.1 million sitting in the general fund. And here you can see the breakdown. And you notice the last bank account, all the Florida Community Bank accounts, with the exception of payroll, because I've got to make sure everything clears out first, have been opened. The only thing we have left to do is to contact the state and the county for our ACH direct deposits, that we change it so that they go to the Florida Community Bank instead of Bank of America. But those accounts have been opened, and the mayor's already signed the checks which opened up the accounts and transferred the funds.
Very exciting, good job.
Any questions?
So when do you speculate that we're going to be using Florida Community Bank by?
We are using it now.
Yeah, the account is open, you said.
The account
Yeah,
is
but
open. Now that the
the
money's
funds
in
are
there,
still
now that
open.
the money's in there, I'm going to tell Carlene that any check she cuts going forward will all come out of Florida Community Bank, no longer to Bank of America.
And
I'm
what-
going to leave some money in there because until we get the ACH wire transfers changed, the money's still going to be hitting the Bank of America account. When it gets large enough, we'll just do a transfer, we'll write a check, and we'll take it out and we'll move it over to the Florida Community Bank.
Okay.
Once the wire transfers are completed, then we'll go ahead and we'll shut down the Bank of America accounts.
Sure. So how long is going to be the transition process, the timeline?
Knowing the
A month
state and
or
the
two?
county, give it 60 days till we're able to
60
get it
days?
done.
Oh, yeah, at least 45 to 60 days.
Thanks.
Any other questions? So the audit is complete. I do have one thing left to do, which has to be done by Friday. I have to file the AFR, the annual financial report with the state, which I'm going to have to be working on tomorrow. And we'll be in compliance, and everything will be in on time as of June 30th, which is probably the first time now in a few years that we've gotten everything in on time, and we're in compliance.
2 years, not a few, 2.
Sorry?
2 years, not
Two.
a few.
Well, two's a few.
2.
Two in the car.
A few is more than 2.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I go to item 3, I apologize, I was given an envelope. Ms. Brooks wants to present something to Officer Battaglia. You want to read it, or you want to just, oh, you want me to do it? Okay. Officer Battaglia, can you come up to the podium? This is for you. Ms. Brooks was having a challenge with her car, and Officer Battaglia, I think, drove by and saw the challenge, and she wants to thank you for helping her during that time, and you pushed her car back into the driveway, into the garage, and it was already the end of your shift. I think you were on your way home. So she wants to say that she's very thankful and she's very grateful. So thank you. Here you go. Thanks, Bruce. Officer Battaglia.
Great job. Good job. Good job. Great job.
All righty. At this time, it's H3. I'd like to go ahead and we have our lobbying firms here, and they want to give us a legislative update. It's been a good year for El Portal. It's been long in coming. So at this time, if you all want to come up and give us that legislative update, and while you're coming up, in 2014, in December 14, the council agreed to hire a lobbying firm after many years not having one. And while we were continuously going up to Tallahassee for a few years and managed at one time to get a line item, but it was vetoed by the governor. This is 1 year that we got a line item for $550,000 for the El Portales El Jardín water project, and we did not get vetoed, so we get that money in July. So it's a very exciting time for us. We deserve an applause for that. So my slight little travel budget that was over, we're all going to overlook that, hopefully, But I want to thank you guys. I had the opportunity to go to Tallahassee 4 or 5 times this session. I worked with all of them. I want to thank you. It's not easy when you're going up to Tallahassee. It's a lot of work. You don't sleep. You walk a lot. And then 6-inch heels at the end of the day became really tough, but I enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed tremendously going to Tallahassee for the last couple of years. So thank you for all the hard work, and go ahead and give us an update on that.
I'll start off, and then I'll pass it on. Richard Pinsky with Ackerman. I want to thank you very much for your confidence and our team effort that accomplished what we did. Just to put it in context, there was about $2 billion in legislative funding appropriation requests. Now, this wasn't just water projects, it was everything, transportation and whatnot, but it was all from local government, special projects, et cetera, what they call member projects. There was only about 40 million that went to water projects out of that $2 billion. And Representative Geller is here, and he can tell you the food fight that went on when you have that many project requests and such a finite amount of money, and not knowing what was going to happen. And so for El Portal to end up with $500,000 is really you to be congratulated, Mayor, for spending your time. I do think we need to recognize Senator Campbell, of course, Representative Trujillo, Senator Latvala. There's some folks that whoever I forget, I'll let them pick up. And now we can't let up. Obviously, you have some success. You're on the board now. People know that there is such a thing called the Village of El Portal. So we have to continue. That's the good news, and whether you take it as bad news or good news, they're going to start in September because this next session starts in January rather than in March to May. Now we go January to March. This is from now on will be that way for election years. So it's going to get accelerated. Agencies are going to have their budget requests in by this September. So legislators will begin hearing agency budget requests in September and October committee meetings. Deadlines will soon be thereafter for member projects again. So the very next item is where we go from here. What is next on our goals and agendas that we have to accomplish?
Edgar Castro with Southern Strategy Group. I echo everything Richard said. I think not only was getting the money important, but I think having leadership know your mayor by a first name basis is important. She was up there 4 or 5 times this year, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the year she decides to come 4 or 5 times was the year we got it through. We met not only with leadership in both chambers, it was also the governor's staff. We got an early start with them. We met with them half a dozen times as well to make sure that we wouldn't get vetoed. I think this is the 3rd year in a row that we get money in the process, but get it vetoed at the end, so that was really important. And we start again. This session starts earlier this year, starts in January, so we are ready to hear from you guys, see what's important this year. I think we discussed seawall reparations, we discussed sewer canal, or rather sewer to septic tank project, so we don't have a lot of time to waste, so whenever you guys are ready to let us know your legislative priorities, we are good to go.
Yeah, both Edgar and Richard covered everything. The only person that hasn't been mentioned was Representative Hardeman. He was also played a role as well. He's your new representative. Daphne switched. Daphne's now in the Senate. And Representative Roy Hardeman, he's your representative. And also Steve Geller's in the back, and he's a champion as well. I'm sorry. Joe. Steve. Don't forget that. Joe Geller. Joe Geller. But I also... He's the better looking brother. Yeah, he's the better looking brother. Joe's never going to let me forget that either.
No.
I'll tell you what I call them other conferences, but also the council folks. I want to thank you all. I mean, especially the mayor, your leadership, and the rest of the council members, the information staff providing us, loaded us up, getting ready for the session, and make sure we get to the finish line.
So we're happy to answer any questions that you have, and either what happened, which I don't even know if we can all recount everything that happened, but questions about what happened, the process, where we go from here. I do want to point out, Mayor, if you'll let me do so, and that is this Friday, June 30th, ends our collective contracts. So if you want us to get started on your behalf again, and Councilman Mathis knows, as much as we like working for free, we really would like the council to entertain retaining. We know this is not an agenda item. We may suggest that we go month to month until you're ready to address what your goals are. If you don't have a goal, you don't need any representation, but hopefully, we met with your city manager earlier. We talked about some other things that may happen. So however you want to proceed, as you do know, and I would be remiss if I did not mention this one other item, and that is, as you know, when we first started, which is over 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, we were at a certain level of funding. Last year, due to some budget issues and whatnot, we did drop our fee to meet and accommodate what you needed as a council. So we would hope that you'd put us back to where we were previously and move forward with either a month-to-month or a 12-month contract, and let's work together for the betterment of El Portal.
I want to go back and say thank you very much. It was definitely June 2nd. That was a Friday. That was the day the governor had the veto list on his desk, and I don't think I got anything done because I was on my phone the whole day with text messages. And 5:54 p.m. that night was a really good night. So it was a rainy night. I had to drive to Fort Lauderdale that night, but it was a great drive. So. With that said, I'll open it up to the council. I want to thank you all. I think they bought a bottle of champagne. It's in the refrigerator. It's a well-deserved bottle of champagne for us afterwards. You know, I had the opportunity to attend the United States Congress of Mayors this weekend, and, you know, a few of them, just through conversation, you know, to get $550 at a town of our size, I mean, $550 is not a lot of money, but when you get $550 at the town of our size and you take a look at the per capita per resident, it's sort of a really big deal. And maybe Commissioner Edmondson called me on that. So it's something really that we should be really proud of. Many towns did not get it. I mean, I know it's sort of the luck of the draw, and you know, there's a lot to it. But it's something that we're on the dashboard, we're on the radar, and sort of have to capitalize on the momentum because it did not happen overnight. Where they know who El Portal is, where El Portal is, and what the value and what we're doing and needs to get done. So with that said, I open up to the council. If you have any questions.
No question, Madam Mayor, but I have a, Matt, you want that? You good? A quick comment. First, I just wanted to say thank you to you all. I wanted to say thank you to the mayor, of course. I remember when, years ago, we were going out there and you would even have a couple people even say well, where's El Portal, right? Remember that?
That doesn't happen anymore, but oh yeah.
But it's because of the hard work of you guys and the hard work of our mayor that they now know who El Portal is, and they will learn to cherish us even more. I just have a quick comment, just a thought that I just want to maybe open up to the council, and this is just something just to maybe think about, kind of keep in your mind. And when Richard was talking, what made me also think about this was that the first time I met you guys, Richard and Eli, we went to that great restaurant, that what was that, New Orleans style? Yep. Oh my Lord, it was absolutely amazing there in the Capitol. It's still there in the Capitol. And I remember we were sitting out there, and we were out there for a while, late into the night, and we were talking about all type of stuff. And I remember you guys said, well, you know what? You have to come out here when, all throughout the year. That's when you build those, connections, and you build those relationships. And that's when they remember you. And that's when they will look out for you, the congressmen, the senators, and that's when, you have a better chance of getting that funding. It can't just be an in-session type of thing. Because when they have a whole bunch of people coming to them while they're in session, it all gets mumbled up in their mind. So when they make decisions of who are we going to give this money to, it sticks out in their mind, well, who do I have that relationship with? And that's where the money goes. Because they have so many voices coming at them. So I just maybe we want to think about, with Richard saying you can't let up, now that El Portal has gotten this money, they know who El Portal is, and we have to continue, we might want to think about hiring year-round, so that they can, when session is out, they can still go when the things are slower, and they can go and have lunch with them and go and do those type of things when they don't have a million other people like waiting outside of their office and in their faces. And then you'll start to see even more, like the funds will start to open up for El Portal. So that's just my suggestion we might want to think about on the mayor.
Any other comment? Do you have a comment?
No.
I just want to thank you guys for all the work that you've done. Same thing with the mayor, all the time that you've spent there, so thank you. Great job.
Same comments, same here. Just thank everybody who was involved in the process, and great results.
I want to echo on what Vice Mayor Nickerson said. We have to remember, we don't meet in August. August is a recess month. So I would, although at this time, we're probably not ready to commit to a full-year contract, I would be okay with a month-to-month. I think that that would probably be the smartest avenue to go, and let the manager work out the logistics with the firms.
Did we want to schedule either a special council meeting where we can discuss who we want to go with and present some of our initiatives and goals?
We meet in August. Like, we have committee meetings next week. So next week, I'm assuming you're gonna identify that when our budget workshop is gonna be in August, or hopefully July. But in the interim, I think it's still a conversation that they could have with the manager. I mean, and then when we solidify our priorities and the avenue we're going to go, if we are going to increase the dollars or we're not going to increase the dollars, we can decide that, and it can be going for the new fiscal year. But in the interim, July is right here, and they're not going away. They're going to be there's going to be a lot of things going on in session. So I would feel more comfortable just keeping the momentum going and not just like disappearing for 60 days.
Well, that's why
You know.
I wanted to, that's my whole thing, is to keep it going. That's why I suggested. But we have the State of the Village address in
August, yeah.
So.
And I'm out for 2 weeks in August.
I just have a quick question, and maybe, I don't know if you want to comment. I'm just curious about the synergies between the two companies and working together.
They did not buy my dinner tonight, so synergy, I wouldn't use that strong of a word.
Great question, great question.
Ackerman and Southern Strategies are your lead. Ackerman has a subcontracting contract because we love Eli and Nortellis and Dave Roberts. For some reason, they took it upon themselves to think that they could be more independent. They wanted to get away from me, really, but they formed their own firm and left Ackerman. But we still love them, and we do other things together, so we work a lot together as their own firm. So they're a subcontractor to Ackerman. So your contract is still with Ackerman and Southern Strategies, and then we have David and Eli as a subcontractor. They still didn't buy my dinner, but it's okay. We're going to go. I will, to play on Councilman Mathis, keep in mind as you're thinking the priorities, and we had this conversation with the manager earlier today, regional. One of the reasons why we were successful this year was they knew that what your issue that you were challenged with here, particularly with the Zika virus and its relationship to Little River, was a regional impact. So as you're moving forward, whether it's sea level rise, whether it's the seawall, what impact is not just to El Portal, but what has a regional or a countywide impact? That is where the success is going to
Yeah, that language is really important in the whole process, absolutely. That made a
Can we
huge
answer your
difference. So in effort to move forward, can we agree that we can go on a month-to-month and allow the manager to work with the firms
Yes.
as we move forward? Is there a motion?
I motion.
The motion by Councilperson Roman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Dre. Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call?
Roll call, Councilperson Dreyer.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now get to work.
Definitely.
Because, you know, you set,
You're gonna
you
be
set the
with Geller
sta-
right now.
But you know what was interesting, Councilperson Roman, I want to touch on something you just said, because in December of 14, when we first decided to go with two firms, we were very hesitant. And I remember this, and I had these two here. And even when we hired them again, and even I was resistant to it, but their strength in numbers. And the interesting part in Tallahassee is that they all know different people. So they're all from different walks of life and backgrounds and sort of parties and all that good stuff. So that has definitely contributed to success, I must say. I must have to add to that. So with that said, Representative Geller is running out his head. It plays a really big part, and everybody has a different energy with a different person in a different company or a different representative, different senator, and even with me for that matter. So it's worked out. And it took a couple years to sort of build those relationships, build those strengths, and build those, I have many senators that just call me all of it. They're like, okay, we have Richard in our office and these guys, what do you think, So it's sort of that relationship, and it's really important because they all know different senators and representatives, and some know the speaker, some know the governor, so all that really plays to our advantage that we need to capitalize on. Yeah.
I remember that we went a little
Yeah, we were
back and
hesitant,
forth.
yeah.
So I'm happy to see the results and just curious about the synergies.
Great question.
Thank you. But thank you, Ms. Brooks. On that note, we have Eileen Damaso. I've asked her to join us this evening. She's from World Waste Recycle. I've asked her to please come. There has been some, for lack of a better word, issues. That thing has gone to the point where I felt it was necessary for you to come to the body and really bring us something tangible. I have residents here who are at the point where sorry is not they don't want to hear sorry. They don't want to hear I'll be there tomorrow. They don't want to hear routing. They don't want to hear anything. They just want their garbage picked up or their recycle picked up.
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Eileen Damaso. I'm with World Waste Recycling. I'm the vice president of the company, and I have with me one of the owners, Michael Adams.
Thank you, residents. Thank you, Mayor and commissioners. I just have a few things to say. I'm one of the owners of World Waste, and I do know where El Portal is. I've been with multiple companies, and I own this company, and we're very proud to have you as a customer. So, having been brought to this attention, I just thought it was important as the owner of the company to come out and see you and to assure you that these issues have been addressed in my organization very strongly and with zero tolerance. So Eileen will talk to you about the measures we took. And again, we do value our relationship. I go back a number of years to the 80s working in this city. So you might be little in the size, but we don't measure our customers that way. So having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Eileen. She is Vice President of Municipal Marketing for our company. But my name is Mike Adams, and I'm the owner, and buck stops with me.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Mayor and councilmen and residents. We've gone with a lot of communications, and and you're right, I don't want to apologize anymore. We have addressed the issue. We have talked with the owners and the route managers and supervisor of the contract. One of the main things that we're doing right now is that we have the route manager is going to be doing the route for now and probably forever. If the decision comes that we're going to switch drivers, he will be training them for an extensive amount of time. But for now, I don't foresee a problem if my manager is doing the route, because he's the one who always did it beforehand. The other thing that we've done with recommendations from one of the residents, we are going to be stressing in the route sheets a map of the areas of concern, and these are going to be highlighted where they're going to see where they need to go. We will have also the supervisor, another supervisor who will be there before the day's over to be sure that everything is being picked up. We're going to be addressing the drivers on the meeting before we depart the yard, again with the areas of concern that we have, and to be sure that this is a very priority first. This is the most important thing that we have so far. And that's basically so far, and we'll listen to recommendations and suggestions. I don't foresee any more problems. The situation has been addressed last week. Next week will be our next service day, and we will be on it this next week and the next service day and the next service day, and this will not happen again. We've been servicing the village since 2009, I believe. So these concerns just, arose worse than before, and we want to settle this. We don't want to have any unsatisfied customers. We're very concerned with our service level. It's one of the things, that's why we're locally owned, and all the owners are concerned about this. So I appreciate the time for us to be able to talk to you, to be able to talk to the residents and tell them that we know there's issues, and we're addressing those concerns right now, and they will not have this problem. Any questions?
I was going to ask the council if it was okay. I was going to close the council meeting, open it for the residents. They are here.
Sure.
If they would like to add anything. Does the council have anything to add at this moment?
sorry, go ahead. No, just.
It means a lot that you, as an owner, that you came and took full responsibility. So it means a lot to me.
We're definitely, that's why one of the things that the world has to offer, World Waste Recycling has to offer, is that we are your neighbors, basically. And we do live here. We don't have an office in Texas, we don't have an office anywhere else, but here in Dade County and Broward County. So we take this very personal, because this is our family-owned business. So we're here to address whatever concerns. We don't want, like I said, any unsatisfied customers. And we've been pretty good. These many years, we've been very good, and we're very proud of our record. For some reason, things have happened, but we're addressing it right now. And yes, and the residents, I would love to hear from them. Thank you.
Anything else from the council?
Just had a quick question.
Yes.
As far as contractual agreement and SLAs, if you can just brief us in, let's say if it's a scenario where, I know you're taking measures, right, to preventive measures from this happening again, but in the case it were to happen again, what would be the procedure, just so we have some expectations, right, from your firm as well?
The agreement is with Miami-Dade County, and there are some provisions there, but I'm going to be very optimistic. I'm telling you, you're not going to have to deal with them. But there are provisions in the contract with the agreement with Miami-Dade County.
Okay. So, for instance, I know you're very positive. In the case some residents were to address that concern, they would just call 311 and.
No, I don't want to go to 311.
Yeah. Okay.
We can address it with the recycling manager
With the
of the
recycling
county.
manager.
Yes,
Okay.
but we're not going to have any more problems.
All right. Thanks.
Anybody else from the council? All right, hearing none, I'll close the council to public comments. I know that I have a few residents here. If you want to come up, this is your time to comment, suggest, complain.
It was not my intention to speak. I just really wanted to hear a solution, really and truly. Crystal Carroll, and I reside at 480 Northwest 91st Street. And I seem to be the queen communicator for my street. Just so that the rest of the council knows, we live and our trash is picked up from behind our home, which is in the alleyway. And our alleyway has been missed a couple times. But again, just as Mr. Mathis said, I agree. I think it's very important and very respectable that you've been here and showed up, and we do appreciate that, because we are powerful little small village, but we are very powerful. So thank you, and I appreciate that. And again, I have been the primary communicator, but ironically, last week there were other residents that had complained that were not in the same circumstances as ours, which is the alleyway, and they were actually on the street, and they were missed. So again, I just really wanted the solution, because it just, we're only picked up every other week, and so those of us that do participate in recycling, which is important, that we just really want to be able to have it removed and not have to worry about coming home and it's still there. But I appreciate it. I really, the fact that you're here and you're present and you listen to what we have to say, that's really and truly all of that we would have wanted. That's it. So, thank you.
Hi, Ibis Garcia, 500 Northwest 87th Street. Thank you for being here and explaining. We have been missed on a couple of occasions. It's very frustrating. For me, I get frustrated because I also do a lot of the cleanup on the river. There's tons and tons of recycle that goes by that I try to keep up with as it goes by the dock, because I am on the water. So I tend to fill up my recycle bin extremely quickly on a regular basis, and it's a little bit frustrating when then I can't throw away anything else. In my opinion, the recycle bins are too small for those who participate. I wish they were bigger. I used to live in Liberty City, and they were the same size as the garbage. So, again, that would always full, because I participate a lot in recycling. But, yeah, the bigger, the better, I think, in this case. If there's any way to make them bigger, that would be wonderful, because I do pick up a lot of recycling, pretty much 2 to 3 times a week, picking up stuff off the river.
I have more.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Please, and I think there's a question from one of the council members. I'm sorry, did you have?
Maribel Fruitstone, 157 Northwest 88th Street. I was one of the people that was riding through the neighborhood. I'm on my new bicycle, and I'm like very proud and trying to be healthy. And I had noticed that it was throughout the village, and it was spots. And for my surprise was, and I had spoken and called you, one of my residents, one of my neighbors was like, oh, call them, and they'll come in 24 hours and pick it up. So I wanted to say thank you, because I did have that happen. And maybe it's just the quality of the drivers or whatever, because I can promise you mine was right next to the other one. And so they took my neighbors and left mine. And I was like, it's right next to it. It wasn't even hidden. It was right there. So, but I appreciate that you actually took the initiative, and thank you for coming. And maybe if we have the opportunity to have more than, or if there are residents that want more than one, because I'm kind of like Ibis, where I always recycle. And so to have an opportunity for a second bin or something, that would assist too, for those of us that want to be a little bit more conservation conscious.
You can always increase your container. There are 96-gallon carts that the county will offer. If you get a list of those, so you don't have to go through 311, if you get a list of those residents who want a larger cart, there's one available. There's also available for another cart. If you have the room for it, they'll have another cart too. That's not a problem, a 96-gallon cart too.
I want to close it up. I want to close public comment and open it up to council, the meeting again. Does the council?
I have a couple questions. So you keep mentioning the county, and then where exactly is the recycling facility?
The recycling facility we take it to is Waste Management's facility. It's located in Pembroke Pines, but we take them to the one in Hialeah, the stop in Hialeah. They have the county has separate contracts with the processing facility and the hauler.
Okay, and then my other question is, can you provide us with reporting as to how we're doing with our recycling?
There's a possibility, got to check and see that. What happens is that our trucks do certain areas. You're serviced on Wednesdays. We service Miami Beach also on Wednesday, and I think sometimes they start here, or they finish there, or the other way around. So unless I dump in the middle, I can't really, don't know if I can give you a correct estimate. But I could try. I could try to see if there's a route, if there's a truck just for this, or we're splitting trucks. If I can get a truck just for this, I can probably, because I know we do about 14 homes per truck. But I didn't want to report. I can give you.
Participation, or do you want volumes?
Both.
But,
So my participate, okay, well, let's
yeah,
start with participation.
I can definitely try to get at least an estimate of what is being picked up that day and what is supposed to be El Portales.
And then my other question is, can you get back to us, because I belong to a committee where it's through the hospitality industry with recycling, and we just did a whole thing on recycling, and there's a lot of things that I'm seeing in our cans as I'm walking my dog that are not recyclable.
Yes, I once witnessed a lot of can paints and toys.
So I know that, I would say probably more than half of our residents don't know, because I didn't know,
Right.
and we just assume, like glass, everyone assumes glass is recyclable, and how it breaks.
That's
yes. And the
Contamination, yes.
And the contamination.
Contamination.
You're good.
That also affects recycling. And so I'm concerned, because I have my personal concerns with Waste Management and their recycle facility, but I'd like to start first in educating our residents here in El Portal in what is recyclable and what's not, and how contamination works. And if that's something that perhaps you guys can help us with.
I will definitely, I've been known to travel all over the place for my recycling, my bag of goodies that I take with me with the do's and the don'ts. and I can definitely help whenever it's necessary to. I mean, and also the county has this great, they have taken a container full of non-recyclables and show you what is not recyclable, and then take the container and show you the right container. We can do something to be able to do education. And you're correct, there's a lot of things that people think they can recycle that you really can't.
And if we ask a town hall for that would be great, and David and I had talked about that, David Rosa mentioned that, because Waste Management does it for bigger cities, they will do a special pickup, because you cannot put paint, you cannot put batteries,
that's
you cannot
hazardous
put
waste,
things.
that's hazardous
So
waste,
they
right.
will do a special pickup, like a quarterly or what have you, and we'll, post it, and then they can come here and there's a big bin, and then you throw away the stuff that you cannot recycle, you shouldn't be throwing away. But definitely an educational town hall, re-informing residents on so much has changed to, reuse,
Yes.
recycle, so, good idea.
If I can just add one comment, because I was very involved in negotiating this contract with the county. There is an education budget in there that the county, actually, we pay to go to the county to educate. So, the county has educational money there for El Hotel, for Miami Beach, but we don't get compensated for it. But we're more than willing as a company to come out. We have nice brochures or flyers.
Show and tell.
And show and tell, and we'll be happy to do that. But just understand that part of the contract does involve an education process.
Excellent. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Just really, really quickly, I just wanted to say, first of all, Councilperson Roman, I agree with you 100%. My wife, she's really big into recycling and things like that, and she gets on me all the time. Like, I'll put something, because we have a bag that we use for trash, and we have a separate bag for recycling, and she'll be like, that's not recyclable. I'm like, but I thought it was. It looks like it should be. She's like, no, that's not. So my wife has it down pat. I was going to maybe suggest, first of all, a couple of things. You were saying for those who maybe want a bigger bin, and those who maybe want a second bin, to get the addresses and I guess give them to you. But for those, since we're on camera, for those who might not get us the addresses or might not know to get us the addresses, that number is 311.
311, yes.
That they can contact too. I just wanted to make that clear
Yes.
for everybody out there. You can contact, you call 311, you can contact through that number to get a larger size bin.
Or another cart,
Or
yes.
another cart. For another cart, would that be an extra charge?
Additional charge, yes.
And that additional charge would be how much?
But I believe the county charges about $2.50, something like that a month.
Okay, for a month for
Yeah,
additional
for
cards. I just want to make that clear also. My last thing was a town hall would be great for those who might not be able to make it. For those who might not be able to make it to a town hall, the mayor puts together a wonderful newsletter, and if she can get you that information of what's recyclable and what's not, we can put it right in the newsletter, and that'd be able to get out to everybody to see. So that'd be another idea. Thank you.
Good idea.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much for the opportunity to speaking with you and to addressing the residents. Like I said, El Portal is very important to us. It was actually one of our first contracts when we started back in 2003. So we definitely do not want to have unsatisfied customers. And I would thank you again for your
Thank
for
you
your
for
patience
coming,
and your
thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And go back to basics.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to go to H5. I want to thank the council. I think that as of today, one of our priorities has been, not only just clean up our neighborhood and clean up everything, but it starts with our own home, and our home is El Portal, our El Portal Village Hall. And to me, it was important to have uniformity and a cohesiveness with our photos and the website and on the Village Hall. They're all on the website now. Thank you. You've all taken your pictures. You all look fantastic. David took his photo this morning. Attorney Geller, yours is missing, and Chief Morales, yours is missing. So, yeah, but I'm putting the website. So with that said, we just want uniformity. So if Chief Morales and Attorney Geller, you can get with our clerk, and she will coordinate so we can have the photographer come take your pictures and update it all. So I want to thank you all. I know I've been harping on this, but everything starts with us. With that said, we have H6. Now, H6 is the same as the first resolution of El Portal. If I can have a moment. H6 is the Village of Upper Taos wastewater facilities plan for sanitary sewer project and capital financing plan, which also ties into our resolution. So we'll sort of combine both, but at this time, we have Steve from Pannoni, who's going to come up and give us an over. We're going to have Steve from Pannoni come up and give us an overview on the facility planned project. Steve?
Yes, good evening. For the record, Steve Elias. Our office address is 350 Lincoln Road in Miami Beach. Dave, do you want to start off with a few opening comments, or do you want me to?
Steve and I have been, discussing this for about 2 months now. It's been a labor of love. So there is not much that we have not looked at this. It has been a process that has been pressed by time. We have a time, a deadline that is actually was due yesterday to provide this application. Basically, what we're looking at to do is send a application for funding for the design of the plan for a conversion from septic tank to sewer lines. The beginning of a process that has been talked about and thought about for quite some time, and I think that we have an opportunity today to begin the process in all earnest, kind of like piggybacking on the great work of Elias and Richard to identify funding. This actually allows us to move our master planning of our wastewater to move into a design phase. So I'll leave you with Steve, who will take over the presentation.
Okay, thank you for those opening comments. So a little bit of a background, which I know this has been discussed previously, but tonight we have an obligation as part of this funding process to review some of the background and the what they call a facilities plan, which is really essentially a master plan for the city's or the village's septic tank conversion project. But as you know, a majority of nearly all of the residents are currently served with septic tank systems. Those, for various reasons, due to the proximity to the Little River and age, comes with extensive maintenance, and there's some limitations as far as the use of the property. So there's a desire by the village to connect basically to a centralized sewer system run by the Water and Sewer Department at the county. So. Just a little bit of a background on for those who are not intimately familiar with the septic tanks and how they function. Essentially, I'm trying to do this with my back turned here. But a typical house, you've got a septic tank, a concrete tank buried in typically the backyard, and then there's some treatment that occurs with some residence time in the tank that essentially overflows the effluent into what they call a drain field. And the key thing is that to properly work, to properly function, a septic tank, typically you need to have some separation between the groundwater level and the bottom of the drain field of at least 12 inches. And as you know, with the Little River, with some of the flooding situations, that doesn't always occur. It's interesting to note that and here's, by the way, some photos from Hurricane Irene, just to kind of, that's on the deep end of, literally, of some flooding that occurs within the village. But again, they don't function. Actually, it can cause a negative situation. Not only will the drain field not work, but it actually can flow back into the house under those conditions. Hopefully you haven't experienced that, but it is possible. Now, just quick overview, within the village, you've got about 775 tanks. There is maintenance, like I said, that goes along with that every 2 or 3 years. Typically, you have to pump that out and maintain that, and they need to be replaced, especially if you've got tree roots and can damage the drain fields. But it's interesting, if you were, now you are grandfathered today with what you have, but if you were going to permit today a new drain field, state law says you have to have at least a half of an acre. So most of your lots are less than 0.2 acres, so you couldn't permit what you have permitted today. And again, you know, you need at least 12 inches. But these, again, some photos, that's actually non-flood situations, but the little river backs up to the homes on the river. So you can see there's not, you know, the natural tendency is for the groundwater to kind of match an adjacent surface water, so there's not a whole lot of separation in the backyards, you know, due to the little presence of the little river. Now, the proposed system would be, and I know this has been discussed previously, this is not the first time you've seen this, but would be to put a sewer pipe essentially down the center of the streets. You've got a lot of trees, you've got minimal right-of-way, so that's probably the most logical solution. Now, the advantage of this would be that it would eliminate the maintenance. You'd have greater reliability, so you can have bigger loads that go into those tanks. And also, it can operate during wet conditions. So if you've got storms, you don't have to worry about it. It gets pumped to the county for treatment. But another big advantage is that it frees up real estate. So if you ever want to put a pool or anything in the backyard or structure over that tank, by connecting to the sewer system, that would open up that opportunity, which we've heard, you know, some residents want to do that. So this kind of summarizes, I won't go into the detail here, but this kind of stacks up side by side. Again, this is what you've got now, septic tank and drain field. And then with the new system, this particular and we'll talk about this in more detail here, but while I've got the graphic, we'll be putting a sewer line in the center of the street. You'll have a sewer line, what they call a service line that would come up to the right-of-way. But then there would be the need for a plumber to come out and abandon the septic tank on the private property and run that line to the right-of-way. We'll talk about all those costs in some of the next slides. Again, won't spend a lot of time here, but really the purpose of this is just kind of giving an appreciation of what's within a typical roadway. You know, there are a lot of utilities, and ideally what you want to have, and I know one of the other infrastructure issues facing the village is drainage. You know, ideally what you want to have is some sort of a curb system, and have your roads tilted so that it flows into into a stormwater inlet so that it can carry it down to the little river. So really, one of the reasons of pointing this out is that if you're going to go through the exercise of tearing up a street, essentially running a sewer down the center of a street, you have a golden opportunity to, at the same time, fix your drainage so that your streets flow into your inlets. You know, a little horror story, we had another city that did this and they chose not to do this, but they missed an opportunity. They said put it back the way it was, but they didn't get rid of their flooding issue. So you have an opportunity to do it a different way. Now, and to further emphasize this, one of the other things that you would want to accomplish during the design is to make sure, you know, typical code is that the center line of the street, you want to have that at least 1 to 2 feet above or below the slab elevation for your houses. So I know driving through the streets that we're going to show you for the proposed phase 1 area, you do not have that situation now. It's either flat, some of the houses are actually below the center line of the road. So what happens during a rain event is that the water runs off the road into driveways, into garage doors, and potentially flood the houses. So this will be an opportunity to fix that at the same time. And that's just a typical section there. You can kind of tell that it's pretty flat. You can see you don't have curbs, and so that kind of speaks for itself. Okay, so the solution. We're talking about funding. We're trying to really build on that opportunity and the success that the village has already got some momentum going with the appropriation. This is another opportunity that we really focus on this as a firm. You know, and the state revolving fund program, I know we talked about this about a month ago, but the state revolving fund program has been around since 1989. The city of Tampa actually was the first city to participate in the program, and they got a $17 million loan. This program historically has been 100% loan, but as of about 8 years ago, so you can tell who was the president at the time, they put in a clause for the state of Florida that said 20% of the state's budget that was typically given up as loan now has to go to small disadvantaged communities in the form of grants. So they started that for a few years, but they overcommitted. So this program has essentially been on pause for about 4 years. It's now been reopened. So now there's a golden opportunity. Small cities aren't used to applying for it. So we kind of see this as an opportunity for the village to get in an application first in line. There were actually cities that got grants last summer and last year, but this will be year 2 of this, kind of starting back up. But anyway, about $4 billion in loans and grants have been awarded as of 2015. Put in perspective, about $200 to $300 million statewide is allocated to this program. And again, I mentioned, well, small communities, that grant loan combo, which is pretty attractive. I mean, we're not aware of another program other than a legislative appropriation where you can get that high of a grant. So we're looking at 80% is where it currently stands. The interest rates are very attractive on the part that you do have to pay for. You're not going to get these terms at a bank. It's a 20-year loan, and it's at a 40% discount to the market rate. So currently, as a base rate, you're looking at about 0.5% interest rate. We kind of joked, I wish we could put our house mortgages on there, but it's a very attractive rate over 20 years. And the final, and there are rate reduction possibilities beyond that if you can commit to certain things and based on affordability. But again, very attractive, and I'm going to say why it's so attractive to small municipalities from a cash flow standpoint. You don't have to pay back any of your loan obligations for design or construction until 6 months after construction is completed. So, you know, that's one of the big hurdles within a small town is how do you pay for the design, how do you get it going, how do you pay for the contractor's pay requests. You know, this program essentially pays it for you, and then you have to pay back 6 months after construction. All right, so, you know, I basically covered this, 20-year, 0.5%, what you're currently eligible for. It's important to understand this is a 3-step process, and you've already, as of tonight, we are complete with step 1, which is the planning stage. The village chose to jump out. That was great to see. That could have taken a year if you would have waited for funding. That could have been grant funded, but you would have been looking at a 50% grant for $12,000. What we had proposed to you was it was probably better to get, because it's kind of a race, to get shovel ready. So you chose to do that. So your facilities plan is now complete, and we're going to review the contents of that tonight. Step 2 would be to get the project shovel ready. So that would be the design stage. So what we're going to talk about tonight and propose through this is to ask for the funding, which is August 9th is the hearing in Tallahassee. We're moving forward with the shovel ready stage to hopefully position the village for next spring to be eligible for construction funding. So that's the plan, 3-step process. And right now we're only be working on phase 1, but we're going to talk about the overall plan, and that'll position you for future funding, you know, as far as you want to take it. Okay, so what we have to do tonight. So tonight is it was publicly advertised 14 days. What we have to do is the final step of the application is to do 3 things. So first of all, this is a funding requirement, but we have to review and execute 3 things tonight. One is to talk about the technical aspects of the project, which would be the facilities plan. We have to talk about the financial impact of the project for phase 1. And then you have to adopt a resolution basically authorizing the village manager to make application for the project. I will point out, you're not committed by doing that. I mean, what you're doing essentially is applying for funding for the August 9th hearing. If you are successful in receiving that award, there'll be an agreement that's drafted by the DEP that will come back to the council for consideration. And at that point, you'll see all the terms, you'll see the final dollar numbers for the next phase for design, and then you can choose to execute or to not take the funding. Okay, so I got to go through. I'll try to make this quick. Here's the technical aspects of what we have to discuss. So we had to, one of the things is to make sure, because these grant dollars are precious, the DEP requires that 3 alternatives get evaluated to make sure that the most economical life cycle cost solution is being proposed. So the 3 alternatives, first one is pretty typical, you could do nothing, so that is an option. And then the second and the third option are a gravity sewer system and a low pressure pump system, which is actually Miami Shores just implemented. So we'll talk about that. All right, so number one, no action. The downside of that is that you continue to have the maintenance, you continue to have the environmental risk, and the maintenance associated with that. So that would not cost anything from a capital cost standpoint. That is an option. Option 2, again, to look at the gravity sewer system, running the sewers down the center of the streets. Now you'll note, and this is building on the master planning that you had completed recently. We've switched some things around a little bit, some of the phasing and some of the locations of things we thought were more suited to kind of match what's already been done related to stormwater, which we'll talk about. But the bottom line is the overall construction cost is $24 million if you sewer the whole city. Now you'll notice one of the things we have to do, again, I mentioned the 20-year life cycle cost. So when you look at that, the actual cost, the net cost is only $17.8 million. And the reason for that, it's a 20-year life cycle. The theory is that after 20 years, that system still has value. So that's why the net cost is only $17.8 million over 20 years. Option 3, again, the low pressure sewer system. What that really consists of is putting, again, Miami Shores just did this, but they actually put individual pumping stations, low pressure, on each individual property. But there's a lot of maintenance associated with that. I know we met with Miami-Dade Water and Sewer. They do not like that. Actually, there's a special exception to be made to do that, but you have to tie into the power. It's a lot of maintenance. Those pumps have to be replaced periodically. There's electric cost. So you'll see, you'll notice the 20-year life cycle cost with this alternative was estimated to be $29 million, okay? So even though the construction costs on day one, if you did it all, were about the same, the life cycle costs are more expensive with this system. So the conclusion was, as you know, looking at that, looking at long-term costs, not just on day one, we've proposed to move forward with the gravity sewer system, which is option number 2. Now, while we're here on cost, so we mentioned the $24 million. Phase 1, which we'll pull up a map at the end of the technical presentation, but this is the area west of the school between Northwest 3rd and 5th, from 87th to 91st. That would be the Phase 1 project. Quite frankly, the reason why we chose that as the first area was because there's already been stormwater improvements, pipe improvements that were put in the ground and inlets. So we felt that was the logical place to start. And then all we had to do essentially was to tilt the streets when we rebuild the streets. We didn't have to have that extra cost of putting the pipe in the ground. So that we thought as a first phase that would make sense. Plus, it actually matches those streets. We didn't do that in a vacuum. We think that the project costs will fall in line with about the segment cap. The one thing, I didn't mention that earlier, but there's a limit on how much one city can get per year. It varies, but it's about $4 million. So that's why we picked that area, because that's about a $4 million project. Now, we'll talk about some of the other costs. That's actually the cost to put the pipes in the right-of-way down the center of the street. There are some other costs that we want to present a worst-case scenario because the DEP will not pay for costs that improve private property values, directly on their property. So there are 2 other costs that the county would be a part of. One is that there's about a $1,300 connection charge or impact fee, and that would be a contribution to the county that each resident, or if there's another way to handle that payment. But for now, that would be a per house cost, about $1,300, and that would pay for the county's wastewater treatment plant, basically to treat the wastewater. Also, there's about a $3,500 plus or minus, that's, it's approximate, depends on, that cost would pay for the private plumber to come on private property, abandon the septic tank, they have to crack it, put sand in it, and they have to run a line to the right-of-way, so between the toilet, bathrooms and the street. That's an approximate cost. If you want to have the tank removed, that would be a little bit more costly, but if they crack it in place, that's about the cost. And then the other cost would be long-term. The county would then charge a sewer charge per month. And that varies, but it's based on water flow. It's 1.5 to 2 times the water bill would be about the monthly charge. Okay, environmental, we can breeze across this pretty quick because the project would be constructed within existing disturbed right-of-way, so there's no real new environmental impact. So we've obtained clearance for the environmental side of this because there was minimal impacts. But that was one of the requirements. There's like 20 agencies that reviewed. We actually submitted this 2 months ago. So they've reviewed it and everything looks good from an environmental standpoint. I mentioned the phase 1 area between Northwest 3rd and 5th, between 91st and 87th, down to the canal. But that would be the phase 1 area. And that's it from a technical standpoint. Now, we've got 2 parts. David's going to cover the financial aspects next. But are there any questions on the technical aspects of the facilities plan? We're happy to answer.
I have a couple. While you all are recommending phase 1 because stormwater projects have been done there, and that's the west side of Horace Mann, I mean, my thought process would be, and I know that it was a charrette process where we, if we were to do this or move forward, and this is a long-term project, that we would start with the business section of El Portal, which would be Northeast 2nd, so that we could be in conjunction with Miami Shores has already started. Not to mention that we have, the 15 acres of the Little Farm area as well, where as a community, we receive a better return on our investment if we started our areas there, as opposed to the west side of Horace Mann. And to add to that, while we do have 1 resident, well, 2, that lives on the west side of Horace Mann, 3, no, you don't live on the west side, you live on the east side of Horace Mann. I think that it would behoove me that not just 5 people would know, that they would all know that this is something that, it's in the works. So this sort of just goes back to my resistance with this entire project is not the project. Clearly, we're an aging community with an aging infrastructure, and I understand that with that, we have a great responsibility to take the steps to have something like this come to fruition. But the speed of it is where I think is where that concerns me, and I understand that we're going to get into that we just found out. The second component of it is that while you may want us to ask you technical questions, I just saw this today. And that also concerns me because if I'm going to represent the people, I need to receive information in a timely manner so that I can do my own research and homework and I can have more intelligent questions to ask. That's where I'm coming from that perspective. So that's what I have to say on that was about the phase 1 and with regards to receiving the information.
This is David Roseman, your village manager. I remember the last time that I was here, it was about a year ago. This is a very exciting project. This is a very timely project. And the reason why we have jumped on this is because while we may have opportunities for funding in later time, that cannot be assured. Right now, this is the 2nd year that this program has been back online, and we saw this opportunity as a golden opportunity to bring some resources to the village. Resources in the form of at least funding to do the design part of this project. The design part, which will be able to allow us to have plans that will be ready for construction. Whether we want to phase it do the first one, or we want to withhold that as a phase 1 and pick another phase, this is something that we can do, right away, pretty quickly. The reason why we chose this, as Steve mentioned, there's no other construction that needs to happen. In the other areas of the village, in the rest of the area of the village, we need to upgrade our stormwater system. So in order to do that, we have to upgrade our planning, master plan, which the last time that it was done was in 2004? 2002. So that will take a good, 6 months? 6 months to upgrade the master plan, and that will require funding, again, that we would have to request to do that. So we saw this as an opportunity to begin the process to move the village from septic tank to sewer line, and to be able to then request for funding to do the planning upgrade of the master plan for the sewer line. So when we do the other subsequent phases, we will be doing both things at the same time, the sewer and the stormwater infrastructure upgrade. That way we would only be tearing up the road once, and we will be able to also do any kind of street improvement that will be needed to be done for those streets. So that was the thinking. Again, the timing was something that was stumbled upon us, and we would have loved to have had another 6 months to put this thing together. It was not something that we would have done this on purpose. There has been a lot of work that Steve and Kelly and I have put into, and of course, Councilman Dreher, to putting this thing together, visiting with WASA, talking to people at the South Florida Water Management, discussing all of these issues. So this has been quite a bit of work to try to meet this timeline. But we felt that it was important to try to make it happen now rather than later, because while many times funding can continue to exist, we have also seen situations where funding has ended. Decisions which may be political are made, or something else happens and the priorities for the state may shift, and that funding may not be available in subsequent years. So we felt that it was important to respond to a need and to do so at this point.
Thank you. Any other questions for the manager or for Steve? Any other technical questions from the council? Hearing none, if you don't mind, I'll close the, did you need to say something?
No, I just wanted to finish because it's just the technical part. We have the financial part.
I know, but I was going to close to see if any public had any comments.
Oh, okay.
It is a public hearing.
Sure.
So I'm going to close the council meeting and open it up for the public. If they have any comments, please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Liliana Pico, 181 Northwest 87th Street. I do have a question. Does the resident has an option to not connect to the sewer line?
I believe that the county requires, if there
We're gonna
is
hear.
a sewer line, to connect within a given amount of time. Usually about 12 months, 18 months probably will be the most that you can delay before connecting.
Okay, and so it's, each homeowner has to pay for connection, correct?
Right.
Which was the amount.
And that's the reason, because I figure that most of you would have financial, questions, and that will be the second part. So we will deal with the money part.
Thank you.
Oh my God, what happened to me?
Marlon Brooks, 400 Northeast 90th Street. Is it my understanding that we are getting a break if we did this now as opposed to later?
No.
I don't know exactly what a break means, but there is an opportunity to get 80% of the cost of this project in a grant. That means that we don't have to pay it back. So we will be getting $1 on 5. In other words, yes, we're getting,
My next question is, so far I think I saw $4,800. Would that be
That's
each?
$4 million.
That's
I mean,
about the direct cost.
the direct cost per, to the owner.
Oh,
Is that to the owner?
That will be the,
for connecting and what have you?
that will be the worst scenario, because we are going to discuss some of the financial strategies that we like to pursue.
Okay, so this 4,800, is this a one-time thing?
No, there are ways that could be.
No, I mean, let's say you pay
Yes,
4,800.
yes, that's it.
That's
And then-
it.
And then you pay your
Monthly?
Your monthly utility, which is about twice of what you're making now, or what you're paying now. So if your monthly water bill is $12, $15, then you'll be paying $30, $35.
What's the guarantee on this project? How, I mean, is it a 10 years or 15 years or whatever?
You mean from beginning to end?
Yes.
Each phase, the construction period will be about 12 months to 16 months, to 18 months, a year to a year and a half per phase.
And yes, I think I understood you say that billing the center of the street, and it would have a drop so that whatever would go back into our homes.
Right.
So therefore, there goes, our street won't be fixed right now anytime soon.
No.
Because then we're, I have a cold, so you know, you gotta excuse me. But yes, it means that our street will not be fixed no time soon, because if we do this, and then again, if we're going to do it, yes, it behooves us to do this first and then fix the street.
And that was one of my considerations. There are some other issues that are going on in the village, like some of the streets are in pretty bad shape.
Tell me about it.
Exactly. Now, in order to do a milling and resurfacing project, it's pretty expensive. So this will be the kind of a thing that the village will have to put, funding for it. So one of the things that we're trying to do is to try to expedite this process, begin to get it started, so people can see how it looks once those areas are being finished, so we can continue to move on to the other areas on a year-to-year basis.
And I guess we're thinking that it's best for us to have this other than the septic tank. It behooves us to have this kind of, more than the septic tank.
One of the issues that was not brought up is that when you have septic tank and you have flooding, you actually have the potential of having.
Yes, I heard what he said about flooding.
But you have that stuff coming on through there.
And I recently had my septic tank replaced, so, so I know how much problem that could cause. No, not knowing what it's like, but I've been hoping that we would do this. I think it would cause us less problem, the homeowners. So I'm only one of, I don't know how many, the residents. How many?
I'm with you.
You with me, yes. Okay, so thank you for your information.
It's public comment, but yes, you can go ahead, Attorney Geller.
Just to add, and I got up to make the point, Ms. Brooks, really before you made your comment, but one of the other things, and I stand subject to the experts here, but my understanding is that although we are talking about the costs that homeowners incur for connection, the flip side of that is that other than Ms. Brooks, who just replaced her septic tank, this would mean that other homeowners would not be subject to having the tremendous expense of having to put in new septic tanks or new drain fields ever again. And as Ms. Brooks can tell you, that's not an inexpensive process. And then once you move to sewers, yes, there's a connection charge, but then you don't have that septic tank issue and problem and replacement. So it's not only keeping you from the problem of having it back up or the sewage come out of the drain field, it relieves you of the future cost. I think that's accurate. I just wanted to-
I'm not so sure that that's the way I feel. One cost and forget about it. Thank you.
Good evening to all members of the council, mayor, and citizens. I live at 335 Northeast 87th Street, You know, it's funny that we're having this meeting, but for the first time in my 9 years living here in the village of El Portal, and I put in a brand-new septic tank and drain field when I first bought the house, and that was 8 years ago. My toilets didn't flush when we had the huge rains, and I'm very meticulous about, you know, putting the Rid-X and taking care. I've managed very well my septic tank. And I was, you know, I kept on asking, well, what could it be? And it could be the water table. Then I read an article about the water table rising and people in Miami Shores having problems with their septic tank and drain field because it has nowhere to go. So, and it just so happens that today I come in and I find out that this meeting is going on. And I know, Mayor, that I bugged you a lot about the sewer system. But I think this is a great opportunity for the village. As a realtor and member of this community, it could only help our village. I can't put in a pool in my house. If I had a pool, the market value of my home would go up. One day I want to sell, I want to retire, I want to go somewhere else, I want to downsize. You know, this will only improve our community, and it'll improve. I know that there are costs associated with this, but in another 5-6 years, I'm going to have to put in a new septic tank and drain field again. So by that time, it'll probably be like $15,000, $20,000. But I agree that it should be done. I think it will only help improve, and I think that the fact that the road will be brought down is very important, because I live on 87th Street, and there are homes that are way under, and that water comes rushing, and mine being one of them. And I think that this would make it more realistic, and it would bring curb appeal, bringing sidewalks to the area, and improving in general the whole village. Now, where does it start and where does it end? I think that, you know, that's some negotiation. I agree with the mayor about, you know, we have areas that can generate a lot of tax revenue, which are the commercial areas of our village, which we do need tax revenues. And, but correct me if I'm wrong, and I believe that in the development, the new development that will go up, the developers have to pay an impact fee to put in sewers, correct? Or it's part of, they have to pay into it. I know that when a high-rise or a shopping center, they have to pay an impact fee to the city, which would be money into our coffers of whoever's going to be developing that area. So I think it would only benefit, you know, the residents. I'm sure that there are differences of opinion, and I mean, I respect them all, but I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak, and thank you.
Can you state your name for the record? You didn't.
Calixto Arturo Navarro.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Maribel Fruitstone, 157 Northwest 88th Street. I want to preface my comment first by saying that I am in support of the sewers. I definitely am in support. But now that I have my rockin' new bicycle, I do proudly say that I live in a beautiful street that has trees, and these are mature trees. And we have a very narrow street, which is 88th Street. So the concern would be that when we're doing these improvements to have this, we just became a Tree City USA. We're a bird sanctuary. And this is going to impact that portion of conservation that many villagers and the council have worked on. And so I want that part and for people to be very sensitive to that portion of the inclusion of these sewers, because that's what also makes El Portal a wonderful place to live in. It's the beauty of the trees, and we hear the peacocks and the birds, and it's going to impact all of that, and especially those more narrow streets. I mean, 88th Street totally needs to be resurfaced. So, I mean, there's pothole. I mean, we really need that along with it. But again, we've worked so hard to make this community in such a beautiful place, and people drive down streets and like, oh my God, it's like beautiful. The mature trees and the canopy, that's totally going to be affected by this. And so we need to be sensitive because they're in the swale. They're right in the swale, and so it's going to be affected when they widen the street. So those mature over 35, 40-year-old trees are, I mean, yes, they're terrible because they're black olive trees and they fall, you know, all the leaves, and there's a complete season for fall when they lose their leaves. But that's the beauty of driving around El Portal, that we have those tree canopies. It's a very safe environment. You feel like a neighborhood. So thank you.
Crystal Carroll, 480 Northwest 91st Street. And speaking of the technical issue, my street, as you know, is the one and only on a hill and has basements. And the structures are built a little different than the rest of the village. So I have a couple questions as far as adjusting the level of the height of the street and how that will impact our homes, because we do have those what we call our primary level, which is underground, basically. I am on 91st. The other question that I have is, because we are the beginning or the end, depending upon how you look at it, of El Portal, how will that affect us with our across the street neighbors that are not El Portal, and how will that affect our street and the things that are going to be done with the piping and the drainage and stuff like that, and how that will affect our street area. And then also, because our septic tanks are in the backyards for all of our homes, how will that affect our alleyway and time? You know, as I haven't heard anything as far as a timeline of how long this is going to take and how long it will be from shovel ready and then to completion, because it will affect not only the trees and the peacocks, but us as humans, and making sure that, you know, our things are back in order and the structures are back and our fences are up and our driveways that are in the back of our home are how that's going to be affected for them as well. So those are the couple questions that I have for you.
I'll let Steve deal with the technical part, and then we'll go into.
Okay, so you're absolutely right. 91st is a unique challenge in this phase one because you've got multi-stories and the septic tanks are in the back. They can't flow uphill. So depending on how negotiations with the county go, whether or not they want to see people on the north side of the road connect to this also, what we're initially planning is to run the sewer down the alleyway, because that way we don't have to put a pump in, because the other thing we could do is put a pump on just 91st for all the backyards and pump it up into the street. But then you're back to the maintenance and tying in your electric and all that sort of stuff. So we'll be flexible when we get to the design, we get to that point. But we've got two ways to handle it, and whatever the best solution is, we'll proceed with that solution. But we're thinking the long-term, low-cost maintenance would be to put it down the alley. And that way it's all by gravity. You never have to mess with it again. You don't have an electric bill, you don't have to replace the pumps, because that will be an ongoing maintenance issue. And what was your time? 12 plus or minus months would be from the time you issue a notice to proceed to the contractor to the time they're finished with the whole project. Now, I will say one of the typical provisions we put into a project like this is that whether it's businesses or residences, we put in a requirement that the contractor is responsible for maintaining access for driveways or business access. So if that means constructing in the middle of the night so that when you get up in the morning, you can back out of your driveway and get to work and come back, that will have, but they'll be responsible for maintaining access, and we'll adhere to that. So literally, they could put a pipe in the ground during the middle of the night down the alley to maintain and put it back so people can get to work. But that may be what's required on that street, is that alley, and for other parts of depending on how deep the construction is.
And I think it's important that we emphasize that we will be talking to each of the property owners individually, so that to make sure that we are doing things that impacts you in a way that will be the least impactful. First, insofar as the trees, we will make sure that if this is a street that cannot be widened, that we will have to observe and to safeguard the root system of those trees. We will do that, but that will have to be made in concert with the rest of your neighbors. So we will be doing a lot of conversation on a block by block, house by house, property owner by property owner, so that we make sure that we have consensus as to how to move forward and to do so in a way that will be least impactful to you. I just wanted to say something in terms of the finance. There are ways that we can begin, because some of the residents we know are on limited income, and there are programs through the county funded through the United States federal government called blood grant dollars, so that we can provide assistance to those homeowners who may not have all the financing to do this project, so that they can be, these programs can help them also be able to hook up to the system without too much of a burden to them. We are going to be working with each one of you. The beauty of this is that it's a small community. When we do this in the county or in the city, large city, this requires thousands of man hours to accomplish. This is fairly easy because we're going to be able to work very slowly and effectively to make sure that all of those concerns that you have will be duly noted, and we will be able to come into agreement with all of the property owners to do this correctly, to do this that it will not be too impactful. Ms. Brooks, you had another question?
Please come to the podium.
Arlen Brooks, 400 Northeast 90th Street. Yes, I don't know, I think he mentioned the financial part of it when the gentleman was speaking. I think it was 3% or something like that. Did you mention anything on the financial?
Interest rate is
Interest,
half
0.5%.
It could go down as low as 0.
Okay, so that's good to know, because like David just mentioned, some of us are on set income, and we need to know where that money is going to come from. And my next question is, I think it's 2 members of the council that lives on 90th Street. Are your septic tanks in the front like mine is?
I have 2.
You have 2?
I have one
Yes.
in the front and one in the back.
Yes, you do have 2.
Mine's in the back.
Yours in the back, mine's in the front. Is there a problem there?
Yours is actually in a better position.
Well, yes, but
You're ready to be connected.
Yeah, but I just wondered if that would cause any problem, if some would be in the back and some would be in the front. No?
We just loop it around.
Okay, thank you.
Had one more quick comment. Just one other quick comment while we're hot on this subject. At some point, this program, whether it's this phase or next phase, it's going to get more competitive with other cities. One of the other outreach efforts that we're going to need to make is try to make the case that failing septic tanks is one way to elevate the village's status or opportunities, the score, essentially. So we're going to need to have an effort to document door to door how many failing septic tanks. I think if you can document that it's failed within the last 5 years, whether you had to have them pumped out or replaced or tree roots, whatever it is, that will help the opportunity for future phases, maybe even phase 1. I mean, we can't control how many other cities apply for this money, but when it gets competitive, that will elevate the village's prospects. And the other thing, just one last financial number, just to put in perspective what kind of a, if you were to go borrow the money to do this project, I just did some quick math on the back of my hand, or my iPhone. A $5 million project for phase 1 with 94 residents, that's about $53,000 per house that it would cost, that the village would have to come up with. So that's a pretty economical way to get sewer in the ground if this all happens.
I don't see Mr. Navarro. I guess he left. He was concerned in terms of the phasing and why we had chosen that area of west of the school. One of the things that we neglected to share with you is that when the applications are for conversion from septic tank to sewer line is when there are those grants that are 80% grant, 20% loan. If we were just going for stormwater monies, that will be 100% loan. So in order for us to be able to apply for a project that would impact the commercial area, we will need to have some of those finances worked out so that we will be able to have a very good handle of how we will be paying back these kinds of dollars on a yearly basis. Even though it may be low interest, it will be the totality of those dollars. We wanted to get the kinks out of this project with something that will be fairly easy, because it would just be the conversion from septic tank to sewer, and we would know that financially speaking, we will be able to fund it through our allocation of our Citizens Independent Transportation Trust. Those of you who were here while Erwin was going through the finances, you saw that that's one of the revenues that we get from the county, and the half-cent tax, that is better known as the half-cent tax. That provides us monies to be able to pay back those loans without having to tap or charge additional dollars to the resident for this project. So that's something that we wanted to be able to take advantage of, is the fact that we have an opportunity, again, with the conversion from septic tank to sewer that is not as expensive as the stormwater projects would be. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't see Susanna there.
Ian Hayes, 376 Northeast 85th Street. I'm curious about the design for Sherwood Forest, specifically around the mound and the houses that are along the water. Basically, all of them are below the street level. So would that be an individual lift station for every house, or how exactly would that be?
Clearly a question for you.
And also, I'm sure you're aware that it's an archaeological zone, so everything needs special.
We can't dig in certain areas.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's going to be a case-by-case situation, but most likely, if it's a substantial drop and there's no options, it could be a pumping station. But I know there's a lot of variability. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but we're going to do our best to try to result in a gravity solution. But it's possible that for some of the homes on the river, it may be possible. But if we build the sewer deep enough, it is possible to drain by gravity. So we'll just have to see.
My house is about 10 feet below the street.
The slab is? Yeah. Yeah. And then it may be a pump for that
So
one.
every house would have a pump?
If it can't be drained by gravity, most likely.
And would that be part of the responsibility of the homeowner, or would that be part of the project?
That's a tricky question. We're doing a project right now. The state will actually pay for the pumps, but they won't pay for it to be installed. So it may be about the same cost, but they'll pay for the material. They'll pay for the materials. Yep.
Any other questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, I want to close public comments and back up to the council before we go into I believe the next part is financing, right? Is there any technical questions? I wanted to touch on one thing. You said you would lower the streets for, is that what you're saying?
We have the opportunity to do it. That will be more expensive potentially, because you'd have to haul away soil. I mean, we don't have all the elevations and everything worked out. We haven't designed it yet. But if we know going in that that's what you want to do, we would come up with a way to do that.
Probably wouldn't make sense though, huh?
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
I think in addition to lowering the streets, some of the problems that we have had in El Portal, and Kelly and I were talking about this, was built on muck, which is one of the reasons why you have the pavement fail you so quickly. So one of the things that we have been talking about is re-engineering how these streets are going to be rebuilt, and by having those streets lowered, we'll have an opportunity to refill them with appropriate and more advanced material than what we have there, and make it last much longer.
Any other comments? Do we want to go into the financial part?
Basically, the state requires us to show how we are going to pay back that 20% loan that we have been mentioned. and it needs to show that we have the ability to pay for that loan. This again goes over the estimated cost of the project. We are talking about it talks about a 20% loan at $960,000, 20 years at 0.5% interest rate, which may be lower, comes out to about $50,000 a year on annual payments, two payments of about $25,000. And the designated funding source again will be the housing tax, the Citizen Independent Transportation Trust dollars. That's it. I guess we covered some of those other issues in terms of for people in a limited income, those property owners who are not going to be able to be in a position to finance the cost. We will be beginning to have opportunities to interview them and set up those conversations with the county, with the federal state. We will be looking for everything that we possibly can to support and to help to make this process happen. And the fortunate thing is that we have enough time to be able to do that. We don't have huge amounts of time, but we have enough time between now, when we put this, the application forward, and we get it signed to come to those kinds of negotiations. The other thing that is important to mention is that the county will be the operating and managing, maintaining this project. It's a project that is worth, again, $24 million. At the end of the day, that is not only a tremendous amount of benefit to the county, but they are also going to have paying customers from you. So we will be negotiating with the county to see what kind of help they can provide to help us, finance and defray those loan costs and the cost to the individual property owners to connect with the system. So again, to say that it may not show, but I'm really excited about this. So,
If you can give me a second, I want to recognize our Senator Campbell, who just walked in. At this moment, we should give a round of applause and thank her also, as we mentioned her earlier, for the monies that El Portal received. Thank you for coming this evening.
yes. Well, I just wanted to make sure that if there was any financial or any other questions regarding finances. Ms. Tompkinson.
You must come to the podium, Ms. Tompkinson. You know the process. Don't let me down. State your name and address for the record, please.
241 Northeast 88th Street. What about people?
Your name?
Deborah Tompkinson. What about renters? How are you going to get hold of the property owners?
I didn't hear you. What was that?
How are you going to get hold of the property owners? Because surely a renter
okay.
cannot make a decision on a house. And there are a lot of renters in El Portal. There are a lot of people who do not live in their homes anymore. So,
Fortunately, we have that information on all the property owners, and we will be contacting them by mail first, and any other means that we can. They will definitely, just like they get the bill for the ad valorem taxes and all these other things, we'll find a way to get it. So that's a great question.
Thank you. Go ahead. Let's wrap it up so we can, the council can summarize their points.
Schedule, we basically are here on the step before last. The council vote, hopefully, as far as I'm concerned, to move forward, to allow us to submit the application to get dollars to be able to have the design of this project begun. And on the spring of next year, we will hopefully be finished with the design and have it shovel ready and go after construction dollars, which is the 3 point X amount of dollars, $1 million that's the cost of the project. So this is basically the schedule, and I have copies for those of you who want the PowerPoint presentation. So for those of you who like to take papers with you, Marlene, if you would be so kind to distribute to those who want.
We can also
for
post it on the website, too.
Ah.
We can post it on the website.
And we will be posting it on the website, so for those of you who are conservationists and do not want to see trees being used. So,
I have a question.
We wait for the, do you want to wait till the entire presentation is done so that we could all, okay. That's it? Okay. Can we turn the lights on, please? Thanks. And can we check the lights outside, because they're on now? Okay, thanks. I want to go ahead and I want to thank Steve and David and all the work that's been put into this. And I want to start off by saying just a couple of things. At the last council meeting, the initial vote for this project was voted on, and I did receive a couple of calls from some residents because I voted no. But I want to be really clear and go on the record as to why I'm voting no. I voted no in May. I'm not voting against the project, and what I said in May, and I'll repeat tonight, is that doing this long enough, I've realized that when we do things in a rushed manner, there's not real success in the end. Although there's a common denominator with all of you this evening that you're excited, and I'm excited too, but each and every single one of you had a concern. And I didn't feel 100% comfortable with the administration and with Pannoni in their response, because I don't think they necessarily perhaps had it, or things haven't been thought out. And it's not the fault of anyone, but these are the things that happen when they're rushed. And as I met with Steve and with David earlier today, I said in private and I'll say in public, I'm not against the project. I understand that when we take a leadership role in a community, that we are facing aging infrastructure. And with that, a lot must come in place. And I understand that that is our responsibility to make the decision. But we also heard Erwin this morning say that, the auditors say that for the last couple of years, or maybe Erwin, our finances were not where it needed it to be. So this is the second year that as a council, we're going to have to agree and vote on taking money out of the reserves because of poor planning. The other thing I had mentioned to Steve and David was that if this was a budgeted item that we as a council had decided that this was going to be a legislative priority, or we were aware that this funding was available and it would have been a line item on my budget, this wouldn't even be a conversation today. But because at the last council meeting we had to agree to take $20,000 that we did not plan for and pay a company to do this, that is what I voted no on. I did not vote no on the project. I did not vote no on the process. On the potential of this project. I am aware, and as I've sat here for 9 years, we've talked about septic to sewer. We know the value. We know it increased home values. We understand all that. But Ian came up and asked about Sherwood Forest. We don't have the answers to that. And what we also don't know, and if the council does, I ask them to please tell me because I don't know, is that the day of tomorrow, let's say we do get the funding for this. I don't know what agreement is going to be in front of us. I don't know if there's going to be things in there that we can't, we're saying that, yeah, we can do this, and there's a lot of, this. Well, we don't know that. This is unfamiliar territory to us. So I think that as a result, it would behoove the council to be more aware, more educated on what we're doing. I hear a lot of engineering. While engineering is important, have we thought of other measures to be able to fill our swells? I mean, Maribel Fruestone talked about the We're Tree City USA and that we're a peacock bird sanctuary. Are there bioswales that we could be considering? Are we engineering this to the point where it's not really who we are? So again, there are questions that I don't think we entirely have the answers to. And what we fail to realize, and what I have been made to feel, is that this is the end all, and if we don't do it this year, we're never going to have the opportunity. That's also not true. This is an opportunity that, hey, I would feel more comfortable if it was presented to us and we said, oh, okay, then let's really do our homework. Let's find out, and we apply for it next year. Did we miss the opportunity this year? We don't know. So to clarify where I'm coming from and to clarify to the residents that did call me because I voted no, That's what I'm voting no on. I voted no on how fast it was presented and how there were few things that were skipped along the way. And that's where I think it's a fantastic project that we're going to have to really, collectively come together and ask questions. I mean, I'd like to ask each member on this council questions, and I don't think we have the answers, and we can't wait on the what ifs. Because what if we do get the money? What if we do get this grant in the 80-20? And what if there are things in there that, residents are going to be like, well, you didn't know that? So that is where I stand. If the council agrees on this, as your elected leader, I will work with the management and the administration and the company to move the project forward and to hopefully, through the hearing on August 4th, support it any way politically I can. But that's where I'm coming from. And I think it's really important that the residents know on camera and hear that that is where I'm coming from. But again, it's not a decision that the mayor makes, it's a decision that collectively, as a council, we make. So I just wanted to get that clear for the record, and I please open it up to the council for any comments that they may have about this project as we move forward, because we have to make a big decision.
Mayor?
Yes.
I don't think it was a rushed issue. I think it was something that was brought up to us, and we're not up here for self. We're up here for the residents, and there are residents that want it. There are residents that don't want it. We have to speak towards everybody. As far as not thinking things through, again, we would be at the design stage, so it is something that we could have town hall meetings to discuss issues like this. We do have a lot of people that are very concerned about the village as a whole, because we are a tree city, we are a bird sanctuary. So I think that we would take those things into consideration as a village together. Also, with regards to funding, I did have a question regarding that, as far as if we went ahead with the project, and how soon after the start or the completion of the project could we apply for funding for the next phase? That was another issue. And also, I did a little research on how this whole thing came about, and it is a pretty unique entity. And I do think that once other municipalities find out about it, it will be El Portal again at the end and not progressing. The same thing happened with the church. I was the only one up here saying we need to buy the church, we need to buy the church. We didn't buy it. Now everybody was saying, oh, we should have bought the church. So I don't want to be behind the 8 ball again. So I think I think all of us are pretty progressive. So I think that, the residents are feeling it. A lot of us are feeling it. I think it's something that we should move forward with. And again, if I'm not mistaken, if there's something in the contract that we don't like, we don't have to sign anything. So I think it is in the best interest to put us in that position where we can say, you know what, we've looked at everything, we've done it all. No, we're not going to do it. Or yes, I'm glad we took the initiative. We need to be ready. We need to be out there up in front. Just as you went up to Tallahassee and you were in everybody's face, we need to be in everybody's face with the progression and the growth of this village.
Yeah, there's no argument to that. But again, when I say rush, is the time frame that we agree to pay a company $20,000 to $25,000 to get this project, to see this project through. And if we're going to agree to use that money to pay a company, then that's where I feel the disconnect, is that we're agreeing to use money that we did not budget to pay a company to work on a project that we don't have all the answers to, that if we do get it, there's a lot of ifs, and if we don't get it, then it was sort of money that we gambled with, which we can, but I think if we're better prepared going into it, then I'm comfortable taking $20,000 that we did not budget for, because it goes back to the initial agreement that we made with Payne. That's but hey, it's good. Go ahead, Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Madam Mayor, how you doing? I just want to say very quickly, and after and if he wants to, and not even to cut in front of Councilperson Roman, but if he wants to, I would also like to hear Councilperson Drayer's take on it, because I know he was working very closely with this, and he's the chair of Public Works, so he might be able to shed some light. First of all, I think that, and this might be for the manager, for our residents, and I could see that everything that we were going through, I appreciate the presentation. For our residents, Mr. Manager, can you just, in plain and simple terms, just pretty much sum up exactly, because I think our residents are thinking that tonight we're voting on like the entire project. I think, and we're not. And I can see the confusion. I saw the confusion a little bit. Like exactly this, what exactly are we voting on?
We are voting in finishing something that we started last month, which is being able to put together an application and submit it to Tallahassee for their consideration. We have already committed this money. So basically, at this point, to me, I encourage you to look at the fact that we have done the heavy lifting already. All we have to do is submit this application and then wait for Tallahassee to tell us yay or nay. Now, once we have the response back, then we can decide whether we want to just take the design money and do the design, or we want to take the design money and then move forward with the construction application. But at this point, the heavy duty, the heavy lifting has been done. The money has been spent. The commitment has been, the investment has been made. So we have nothing but the benefits of this 2 months of serious work that we have put into this to bring to the village a solution that has been in for 20 years in the making.
So just to sum it up, and for clarity purposes, you're good, you're perfect, For clarity purposes, tonight will be the vote to vote on the submission of the application.
Yes.
Okay?
For phase one.
All right.
With the
for
two
phase one.
artifacts.
Okay.
Which they were presented today, which is the financial piece, which David presented, and the technical side, which Steve presented. So that's the proposal, to move forward with the application. And like David said, at this time, we're not voting to start this project. There's going to be future workshops, and Steve and David, correct me if I'm wrong with that, but right now is, just to keep some history, during the last council meeting, we adopted this resolution to move forward with the RFQ to have Pennoni help us with the application process. So this application process requires two artifacts, the financial analysis and the technical analysis. And that's what's been shown to us. And that's what's going to be presented to through the application process that Steve and the firm is going to be showing us. So we're going to have time. Even this month, I've been to David's office numerous times. We've been on conference calls with Steve. It's not just one-time visit. So I encourage the rest of the council members to as well, when David requests for the rest of the council members to come to the office, have these conference calls with Steve, to please attend and participate, to have, just all these questions addressed during these conference calls. Because this presentation on the financial analysis and also on the technical analysis, this is, at least from my perspective, is nothing new to me. This is also discussed in the conference calls with Steve and as well with David. So that's why I'm very, the questions that the residents have brought up, I think they're great questions. Perhaps we might just take, items or checklists and address them during the workshop. And I know I've seen you've been taking some notes, and perhaps that some of those questions can be addressed in the upcoming workshops. But again, just to reiterate, for the folks that we see here on a constant basis and on a frequent basis, Public Works is what we all as a council have agreed to move forward with the upcoming year as the top 5 priority goals. And that's what our commitment is, to move forward. So, and I think Pennoni has been very careful with explaining to us the process, made themselves available for any questions. So I'm sure if you guys, the residents have any questions, I'm sure Steve can address them directly as well. So I don't want to speak on Steve's behalf.
Yeah.
So that's my point of view regarding this resolution.
Excellent, thank you.
I feel very passionate, as David feels as well, and I appreciate, all the questions, all the turnout we have today, and the support from the council. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the council?
Yeah, I just wanted to finish up
Before I close it to public comment.
Yeah, very, very quickly. I just wanted to say thank you, Councilperson Dreyer. I know you worked very hard on this, and you're bringing Public Works up to a high level. Besides, we're like I said, so if it's a yes vote tonight, it's not a done deal. But I did want to say though that even though it's the vote on the submission of the application, I do hold some of the same concerns that the mayor talked about, only because we've been up here for a long period of time. And in the past, there's been things to where, like, if we didn't know all the information from the very beginning, and there were things that we might have voted for or might have not voted for, that just by not having all the information, and the mayor could vouch for this in the very beginning, it made it very difficult. So seeing the PowerPoint, which was wonderful, and now having it, is a good thing that this is a vote for the submission of the application, because now there are other questions that may arise. And all of you brought up great questions by seeing the PowerPoint for the first time, right? And we're seeing it for the first time also. So even though it's only a vote for the submission of the application, I do share some of the mayor's concerns about having all the information that we need going forward, especially for large votes. We've been in those predicaments before, Madam Mayor. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council? Yes.
So great presentation, Steve Pinoni. Thank you, and thank you for all the hard work, Werner and manager. I totally get where the mayor was coming from. I think last month I was on the fence. I was evaluating, and it took me a few minutes to make a decision as to whether I wanted to vote yes or no, because the financials were a concern to me. I think it was, there's different risks that we take. Some are, risks that you take not very responsibly, but I felt that my vote in yes, I really thought it through, and it's a risk that I think was worth for the village to take. And so, thank you again for the presentation. I just wanted to share those comments.
Thank you. Any other comments before I close for public comments? All right, great. Hearing none, before you vote, I'd like to close it up for public comments. If at this time you have anything you'd like to say on this item, just state your name and address for the record.
Ian Hayes, 376 Northeast 85th. I just wanted to add a little bit more to the questions that I presented before, and I think Claudia really brought up a good point of wisdom here with just understanding that there's not really a plan for Sherwood Forest, and Sherwood Forest is one of 3 of the areas that makes up El Portal. You said that it's going to be on a property-by-property basis how it's going to be handled. I've been to every house in Sherwood Forest and around the mound and around the water. I've been into every house. I know every resident, and I'm a general contractor, so I know that there's no easy way to do this, and you're going to be carving it up like crazy. It's not going to be like the rest of the village where you have straight lines and you go front or back. So we're looking at, reserve tanks, lift stations, pump systems, and you're going through properties that basically have an inch or 2 of soil before you get to oolite. So you're cutting through oolite. So it's just going to be a disaster to try to get this. I mean, the whole place is going to be up in arms about it as far as the residents. So I think it's something that's being underestimated. So I think that what Claudia said as far as having a lot of open-ended questions, that's a very big one that needs to be considered, because I'm the only one here from Sherwood Forest, or at least the mound tonight, but I talk to everybody on a regular basis, and I know they're going to be up in arms when they realize what's going to be happening to their properties to do this. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Name and address for the record.
Yes. Crystal Carroll, 480 Northwest 91st Street. I respect all of your intention because it shows that our village is absolutely the first thing that is in your mind. I do feel that it will be beneficial in Phase 1. I can't speak about Sherwood Forest because I don't live in that side. But as far as the straight lines and stuff that should be easy, Phase 1 will probably be the easiest, to be honest with you. And my question is it possible that we proceed with Phase 1 with the understanding that information will be shared with all the residents? Because like Ms. Claudia said, Mayor Cubio said, sorry. You're right. There's not representatives here from the west side. So it will be something that will either be a shock or something that people may be up in arms about, just for the lack of information, not necessarily because of the mound and the historical, such as in Sherwood Forest. So as long as there's that communication, I think that realistically, Phase 1 would probably be the easiest, just so that it can be done and we can begin that conversion for our entire village. But that, the communication has to be made. That's important.
Oh, well, yeah, I was going to let everybody come talk, and then I figured we can all, to get everybody in.
Ibis Garcia, 500 Northwest 87th Street. She just said, I agree. Being on the west side, it is going to be so much easier on that side, and we have such extensive flooding issues that causes the drainage issues for the septics in our side. Luckily, I haven't had any issues yet. For whatever reason, my previous owner, which I got a chance to speak to not too long ago, explained to me that he thought it out very carefully, put the tank on the side of the house near the front, and put the septic drain field as high as possible in the yard, nowhere near the river. So I'm lucky because everything to the back of my property line is caving into the water, all of it. We are losing my backyard in leaps and bounds, my neighbor next door as well. They have holes the size of their animals in the yard near the water. The water is eventually going to rise into our area if we don't do something about the seawall, which is another big issue for the people that live, the residents that live on the river. But the drainage of the septic, I can see, is going to be a bigger problem for us sooner than later. From the time that we moved in 2014 that we bought, the things that were planted near the river have already sunk immensely. I mean, you walk and you're liable to trip and fall in holes that are showing up in the back. I'm constantly filling with gravel and soil and everything, front and back, everything, to try to keep and maintain the property above water level. So my worry is that the water is going to reach my drain field and my septic sooner than later, I should say. And I'm going to have to do some serious maintenance on the septic as well. I haven't had to yet. We did drain the septic when we moved in because I wasn't sure what the previous owner had done, so we pumped it out. So far, so good, but we did have one backup. I'm lucky. 3 years being there, that's the worst of my problems, but I would hate to be in a situation where that damage that's coming in as we're losing the backyard and we haven't resolved the seawall issue, which I know was on the budget and books previously, that's been put on the side, that all of that together affects the west side, especially those living on the river. So if it is, like she said, an opportunity that we can do something on the west side and then try to help the residents in the Sherwood Forest side and on the other side of town to work out the issues there without destroying the beautiful trees we have in Sherwood Forest and the roads, and finding a solution for them that isn't as costly but is effective, that would be the ideal situation. I don't know if that's a possibility, but that would be a great suggestion if it's possible to start with what we would figure is the easiest side and work your way towards the east. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. Any other comments from the public?
Marlon Brooks, 400 Northeast 90th Street. Well, I wasn't aware that this would have been discussed tonight because I did not make last month's meeting. And I'm glad that I came tonight because I had no way of knowing that this was going to be discussed tonight. I am where I am 33 years. When 10 years, I had to put in a new drain field and everything. And last year, I had it cleaned out. So I welcome this. It's not going to be cheap, and we heard it wasn't going to be cheap, but I think this is the best way to go. We have to make sacrifices in life, and this is one of the sacrifices, as long as I'm alive, I'm willing to make. So thank you.
Any other comments? Senator Campbell, you didn't want to come up and go to welfare, you okay?
Good evening, everyone. Oh, I said good evening.
Good evening.
All right, then. So first, before I start, let me say congratulations to my friend, Councilwoman, if I'm married for your newlywed. So let's give her hands. You know, I watch her wedding on Facebook. I said, what a beautiful wedding, but she didn't invite me though. But congratulations. Now it's not a married woman no more. What's the last name? Darivala. You see that? All right. So, but congratulations. I know you and your husband going to do well. So anyway, good evening, all my residents from the village. My name is Daphne Campbell. I'm Senate District 38. I could tell you, like this year in Tallahassee, it was a big fight. The budget for the state of Florida is $82.4 billion. In $82.4 billion, and I'm pleased to tell you, for after 7 years, 7 years now, we have a good money, $550,000 for the village. You know, I could tell you, you have the greatest mayor. The mayor, she's in Tallahassee almost every day. She drives me nuts. She calls me every minute. She texts me every hour. And, she don't even let me sleep because she texts me 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to tell me, remember about my money. So truly, Mayor, you got your money. And I know next year we're going to go for $1 million. What's your manager? Mr. Manager David? Yes. So we're going to work this next year. Yep, so we're going to try to bring every dollar we lost from 2011 to 2016. So that 550 is just a start. But next year we're going to get more. And truly, I could tell you the the councilman and councilwoman, and I have my greatest friend, Eli Nautilus. So, listen, Eli, stand up, let people see who you are. They work very, very hard in Tallahassee. Eli drives me nuts as well. Give her Eli, Nelson Diaz. Listen to me, you guys choose the greatest lobbyists in Tallahassee. We work very close and we do what we're supposed to do. So next year we're going to ask for more, but what I really want the village to ask is some dollars for the seniors' hot meals, because they do give money for hot meals. So Eli, put it in your calendar for us to ask money for senior hot meals, because I know the mayor have an initiative giving hot meals. So we want to add that. And what I ask her all the time, I don't know if it's possible to get some money for us for the library. So I kept saying the village need their own library. And we have money in Tallahassee for library. I'm hoping the village could have their own library, because I represent the village for 6 years, this year 7. And as your guys' senator, you know how I move in Tallahassee. I'm the champion. I work very well with Republicans. If I ask for something, I got it. You watch me, Mrs. Mayor. You know I work. So please, you could give me anything. I will bring it for you. In Tallahassee, it was a fight between the Senate and the House, because the Senate wants something, want the land, $2 billion. The House, the Speaker didn't want to give the governor what he wants. So we extended session until May 8th. May 8th, nothing is done. We go back again because Governor Scott wants $300 million for EFI and $85 million for Visit Florida. So just because of the two who didn't get their money, he vetoed $409 million, good projects. I have 14 of them vetoed, just for Governor Scott to get what he wants. So with all this said, you know who lose? You know who lose? The taxpayers. Taxpayers. You know, finally we give him $85 million for Visit Florida when he extended his session. So, but with all going on in Tallahassee, this year the village was a winner because of your great mayor and your great council and councilwoman. I love you, my mayor. Come in. That's my woman. So we're going to continue working together, and I'm going to continue to give you whatever you ask for. Thank you very much. May God bless all of you all. Say it again? No, not for right now. It's 2020. Not right now, but they started the process already. But don't worry, you have the best ever senator in the state of Florida, Daphne Campbell. So keep on and keep on going on. Thank you. May God bless.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator.
I didn't acknowledge my chief of staff.
Come acknowledge the chief of stand-up, chief of staff. And chief of staff is her name is what? Elizabeth Anowitz. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for coming out. We appreciate having you here. If we're hearing nothing else, we're going to close the public forum right now. Everybody got a chance to speak and say what they want to. Thank you very much. The public forum closed at 9:40 p.m. All right, opening it back up for the council. Is there anybody else on the council that has anything else that they want to add to this? Just to clarify one more time, this will be a vote that will be on the submission of the application. Okay. Anybody else? Councilperson Dreyer?
We're good, thanks.
Councilperson Mathis?
Ian, I want you to know that when it gets to Sherwood Forest, and my whole thing was Sherwood Forest was probably going to be the last phase because of the delicate nature of it.
Yeah.
Trust me, we will go through everything. If it's not a good deal for Sherwood Forest, it won't happen. It's so true.
Yeah, which is a possibility. Councilperson Roman? Or what's the name? What is it? Daravala, not yet. Roman still. And
She
thank
still
you
wants
very
some independence.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Campbell. But Senator Campbell, you took my thunder away because she knew when I was going to do my public affairs report, she was number one that I was going to mention her wedding and have her comment on it. But it's okay. You took it. It's my number one right here. It was you took it. It's okay. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Great minds think alike. Okay, so Mr. Manager, anything else?
No, I think that Councilman Mathis, that's exactly, we're going to have, we're going to look at every particular issue, and we're going to work with all of the property owners. My only response to these kind of situations that area is in danger. We have to address it.
There's a lot of things that need to be done, and it's not just septic.
And I appreciate Ms. Garcia's conversation about how that, seawall is deteriorating. So we have to do something, and we will do something. And now this will provide us the resources to explore what can be done. So we will look at everything that engineering can provide to address those issues, bordering the canal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so moving on to the actual vote. Do we have verbiage to be read into record?
Yeah, he has it. He can read it.
Okay. All right.
To the record.
Here we go.
Good evening, everyone, and council and everyone for coming out tonight. So let me begin to read it here. A resolution of the Village of El Portal, Florida, relating to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection Small Community Wastewater Facilities Grant and/or State Revolving Fund Program adopting the Village of El Portal wastewater facilities plan for sanitary sewer improvements project and capital financing plan dated June 27, 2017, authorizing submission of the plan to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, in parentheses FDEP, designating the authorized representative, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you very much. That, for the record, is Resolution 2017-16. That is wastewater facilities plan. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Councilperson Mathis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Dreyer. Madam Clerk, do we want to do a roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilperson Dreyer.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 to.
Thank you very much.
She's not here.
Like we said, this is the vote on the submission of the application. This is not at all a one and done for my residents, so don't be alarmed with that. We will have more questions as we go forward, and we will be sure to bring those questions up and not let those questions fly into the wind, into the night. Moving on.
Point of order. The mayor.
Moving on.
And if I may, I'm going to thank
Yes.
you all for your time. I'm going to hand it over to Village Attorney Geller, and you all have a good evening.
So, moving from one great one to another, my brother. Great to see you. Great to see you. Have a wonderful night. We're moving on to the mayor, manager, and committee and attorney reports. The mayor will be back shortly. So we'll start off with the manager reports. Are you ready for to do the manager report, my brother?
My report is supposed to be very brief.
Thank God.
A couple of weeks ago, it was my 1-year anniversary of being here and serving you as my village manager. I want to thank you for this time and for tremendous amount of support. And I will be going on vacation starting Sunday. So I will see you again on the 10th. I will be sending you, however, material for all the committees, so things for you to consider. So, but I will not be here for.
Does that conclude your report?
That concludes my report.
Well, congratulations. It's been wonderful having you here for a whole year, and it shows that time flies because it doesn't feel like a year at all. Like, it's crazy. We're getting older, sister. We're having fun. We will move down to the committee reports, unless the mayor.
Go into the committee reports. You can do
Into the committee reports. So the first one will be the public affairs report. You guys know, again, congratulations to Councilperson Roman. She is a married woman. We appreciate we appreciate her wonderful husband. We appreciate her wonderful husband. If you guys have never met him, he's a wonderful individual. A great friend and a wonderful person from top to bottom. Since we are in the congratulatory mode, we will move on, and I will put this second. And I wanted to congratulate, back in perfect time, our mayor, Mayor Cabillos, because she received the award for outstanding. Hold on, everybody has to stop for a second. Listen to this. Mayor Cabillos received the award for the Outstanding Board Member of the Year at the last Miami-Dade League of Cities board meeting by President Francis Suarez. Now, when you're talking about the Outstanding Board Member of the Year, you guys, when the Miami-Dade League of Cities, they cover all municipalities. So you're talking about competition with pretty much every other elected official. And she is the individual that received the Outstanding Board Member Award. And I just want her to very quickly just kind of tell you guys the importance of this award and what it means to her.
You know, it's interesting because in today's meeting with David, we were talking about the MPO. And one of the things that the Miami-Dade League of Cities really offers the opportunity is the connections in the community. You know, we've learned a lot that our community is small, and we strive and thrive on connections and relationships. So when we look about bike paths and things that we want to do, and the chairman of the MPO is the President Suarez that just gave me the award, those things sort of just help. But it's really been an experience for me being on the board, and ironically enough, Mayor Black was the one that first initially put me on the board. I was first elected in '08, and I was not on the board. Councilperson Mathis was, and I became an alternate, excuse me. And she one day in 2010 says, you know what? No, she's new. She needs to be on there. So may she rest in peace, and I want to thank her for entrusting me in doing that. And that's how I initially got on the board. And then I was very fortunate, and as I said, like all the stars were aligned in December of 14 when I got elected to be on the executive board. That really took me by surprise because there was a lot of mayors and there was a lot of council people up for that. You had the mayor of Doral, you had the mayor of North Bay Village, you had a lot of, you had a Miami Beach commissioner wanting for that role. And I didn't really ask for it that year. I had thought about it the year before, but I knew the time commitment that it entailed. And when I got the call, I was very honored, I was very touched, and I was very humble. But with that came a lot of commitment, responsibility, and to serve not only in your town, but you represent the county as a whole. And when you represent the county, you go to Tallahassee, you represent the county, not just El Portal. But that has just really elevated who we are, what we are, and where we're going. And that sort of like was sort of everything has been a sort of the tipping point for El Portal in terms of where we're going. So I thank the council for allowing me to attend those meetings and to go to Tallahassee and to go to Orlando and to have travel a little more than what was budgeted for, but I do it to represent El Portal and the county. Everywhere I go, it's El Portal, El Portal, El Portal, El Portal, and it really, I believe, is beginning to pay off. And it feels great to be this weekend at the United States Conference of Mayors, and to be recognized by the president of the current league, is Oliver Gilbert from the Miami Gardens, who there must have been 1,000 people there, but the one name he mentioned was mine, and I was very touched by that. So with that said, he doesn't say Claudia Cabillos, he says Mayor Cabillos of El Portal, and the last two words is what I'm most proud of. So that was very exciting. So all of that is tied together, and all of that we do collectively. When we're about to announce another award, we do all this really for the village. We do it because it's all going to come back to us, and we're really proud to be representing you, and I thank you for entrusting me.
Definitely. No, that's very, very important, and it's very important what you just said, Ms. Brooks, because it seems like all the stars are aligning, right? We're getting like this money for the first time. We've been trying for so many years. We've been up here in the council, and everything's like coming together. El Portal starting to be known much more. It's like everything's coming together, so it's wonderful. She made senator, like everything's everything's coming together. So, you guys, we're not done. We have the first congratulations. We have the second congratulations. We have saved the last but not least, the designated one. Councilperson Mathis deserves congratulations. He received the Champions of Equality Award from SAVE recently. And this is for his commitment and support toward equality. I want him to talk a little about this award, the importance of it, and what it means to him. Congratulations, my brother.
Thank you. It was a very touching moment. You know, a lot of times elected officials are characterized as the bad people. And sometimes it's a thankless position. I do the things that I do because I am who I am. I am openly gay. You know, I'm not gonna deny that. If someone asks, I'm gonna tell them. I don't believe in gay rights. I don't believe in black rights or white rights. I believe in human rights, and everybody deserves to be treated equally. And you know, It's the truth. And to be a part of an organization that has evolved from safeguarding America's values for everyone, which started as a gay organization and has transitioned to a much bigger beast than anyone ever thought it could be, and to be involved with them for almost 2 decades. Just aged myself. To be involved with them and to receive this honor, it was very, very touching, and it tugged at my heart, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very well deserved. I remember when I first got on, I went to an event, Save Date event. I'm going to a couple of them, and I mean, Councilperson Mathis, man, this guy, he like organizes these huge, beautiful. Like, you should have been an event planner, man. Like, he organizes these huge, beautiful events.
It's delegating.
And I'm just like, and he's running around, and you guys know Harold, like, he's running around. He sees me like mid stomp across, like, from one end of this huge like hall to the other end, and he's like, "Omar, how you doing? I'm going crazy right now. I see you later." Like, he's just like, whew, and man, he puts on. It was wonderful, and very, and I can see why you got champions of equality, because you're well deserved, man. You're a wonderful individual. And,
Well, it's reflective of El Portal.
Yeah, and it's a
It's
reflection
all
of
of us,
you.
yeah.
It's a reflection of you. Thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you.
So we have our annual Independence Day barbecue, you guys, coming up on Saturday. That will be July the 1st.
Wait a minute.
All right, coming
That's
right
this
up.
Saturday.
That is this Saturday, coming up Saturday, July the 1st, and it will be right here at the Tot Lot. Okay, right in the back of the Tot Lot, and for all you guys who don't know, it will be held at the Tot Lot, and the Tot Lot is located right behind Village Hall. So directly behind Village Hall is where you can find the Tot Lot, and just follow your nose and you'll smell the barbecue if you get lost. And that begins at 11:30 a.m. and it will run to approximately 2 p.m. All right, 11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the Independence Day barbecue is a wonderful event that we've been doing for such a long time, and we welcome everybody to come out from there. I wanted to take a second. Before the meeting started, I sent out a text to everybody, and it was kind of letting you guys know that I'm going to try to make the barbecue, but I'm going to have to leave a little bit early. I sent you guys a text that showed that my son, who I talked about before in the past, he has a large tournament on this Saturday and Sunday. You guys know he's in football. And if you guys looked at the, and I just want to say this really quickly because he reads the minutes. Councilperson Roman Dirivala, she can admit, or she'll can tell you guys that in the past at like committee meetings and stuff like that, like he'll get up and be like, "Oh, I have this idea," or "I have this idea," and that's because he reads he loves politics. He reads the minutes. He's 9 years old. He reads the minutes. So I just wanted to say, and I know this is going to go into the minutes, that I'm very proud of him. That picture that I sent you guys, the council, before the meeting, showed that because he is in football, and since the regular football season was over, he was in the NFL program, which NFL doesn't do tackle football because of all concussions and stuff like that. They can't, but they do like a junior flag league. And it's for all the teams. They have their junior teams. And he led his team to win their first championship. The Miami Dolphins won their first junior league NFL championship. And being that's the case, if you look at the picture that I sent you guys, it was for 6th grade. He's only 9 years old, but he's actually taking 6th grade classes. He's been promoted. He's jumping 2 grades. Wow. So he'll be in for the first year, half a year. Next year, he'll be half of a 5th grader, half of a 6th grader. And he turns 10 in December, and by the time he turns 10, he'll be a full-fledged 6th grader next year. So, so I just want to congratulate him on that. I'm very proud of him. And like I told you guys before, he's not the greatest athlete, but what he does do is that he studies a lot, and it's that intelligence that he does have that allows him to do that. So now that this is the final and last tournament this weekend, is Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to try to see if I can fix my time with having to fly out and go to that. But if I do miss the barbecue, Independence Day barbecue, I apologize. This will be the last event that I'll be missing. I told you guys in the past recently that we're hiring a driving company and stuff like that to take them around next year. That's pretty much it. Tackle football started this week, so there's overlapping. He was at practice a little bit earlier. I was texting my wife, and when you saw somebody texting earlier, she picked him up. He's back. He's still the number 2 defensive player in the state. He's still the number 7 defensive player in the nation. So we'll see what's up. So beyond all that, I'm glad that he's doing good educationally, and hopefully that continues. So thank you for that. That's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen, for me. One final thing, Mathis, I know you're going to come here, but I'm done right now. You guys always know I always try to hit something that's happening either around the world or in the nation very, very, very quickly. This is very important. Miami came out as it just surpassed New York as the #1 city in the nation with individuals who have STDs who do not know it.
Yep.
So even though population-wise, New York is much larger than we are, that tells you that's telling you that we have individuals who are not being tested necessarily. Okay, so just to be clear, this is not saying that Miami is the city in the nation with the most STDs cases. They have found that Miami is the #1 city in the nation with those who have STDs, the most cases that do not know about it, have not been getting tested. Okay, all right.
Wow.
So it's HIV. Yes, it's HIV/AIDS. It is HIV/AIDS. All right. Okay, the #1 city with HIV/AIDS. So I just wanted to say that to say, you guys, like, there's so many free HIV testing out there. Get tested. All right, please get tested. Get tested. Get tested. Get tested. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the public service announcement on the public affairs. It's the interest of the public. I want to tie in real quick to all the council and to the manager. You guys will see a T-shirt here with our new logo. Getting our shirts and all that takes time, but I bought these for you guys so we can wear Saturday. I bought blue for the men and red for the ladies. Oh, good. So I hope you guys, if you come, please wear it, and it sort of shows unity amongst all of us. So if I got the wrong size, please forgive me. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to go to the mayor's report. I'm going to be so brief, you're not even going to realize it. I just want to acknowledge a couple of kids. I want to go ahead and, as I've mentioned the last couple of meetings, I did end of the year awards at Phyllis Schuth Miller and Horace Mann. One of the children that received an award of Phyllis Schuth Miller was Mr. and Mrs. Carroll's son, Emerson Carroll. He received a leadership award, and we also have Gracie Valdez and Cece. From Horace Mann, it was Cyrus Ferguson and Scarlett Louise. They received a nice, beautiful plaque that was presented to them. Pictures will go at the next newsletter. Education Compact Initiative, I'll work on it all summer. The State of the Village address is Tuesday, August 22nd. It is always a fourth Tuesday in August because we do not meet as a council. We talked about the project that we just got awarded money, and that concludes my report. The manager, you already said a few, did you go? Okay, the manager already went to, gave a report, Public Affairs, Public Works, Councilperson and Chairperson Dre.
Two things. Just have some pictures of the continued efforts for Public Works, the tree trimming. Unfortunately, it's black and white, the pictures, but the tree trimming was conducted to more than 17 locations throughout the village on the northeast and northwest. So you might see some along when driving. So that was, again, thanks, David, with working with Big Daddy. I myself went with Big Daddy and we went around the village to see those locations. So these are some just
Excellent.
snapshots.
Thank you very much. Sure.
I think in front of it, there was a dead tree, so they're gonna replace it. No, not in front of your house, but yeah.
Does that conclude your report?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
And the second item, we're working on the internship, the Public Works internship. So we received a couple of resumes. So anybody of the council who's interested in like reviewing the resumes that we received from a couple of students, very impressive backgrounds. We have engineering backgrounds, finance backgrounds. So I have the stack of the resumes. You more are welcome to review them and provide David some feedback. So if you're
Excellent. Can we have the
interested-
clerk email it to us?
Sure.
Thank you. Perfect. Sounds very good.
And that concludes my report.
No problem. I added Nature Trail just to let you know an update. We were supposed to meet with them last week, but Arida got sick, which Arida is the assistant superintendent. So I believe we're aiming for a date in July. That's the update on the date. And all it is, we got to review the contract. We need to take a look at the sort of the details and hopefully move forward with that. Public safety, it's me. I will be brief. As we all know, Officer Rigo, after serving with us for more than 15 years, has resigned. He has joined the Biscayne Park Police Department. I please ask Chief Morales to be sure that he attends the next council meeting so that we can give them the plaque for his years of service in our community. The 5 new vehicles were already ordered. Very excited. They'll come in by the end of the summer. I did meet with the PBA to form a labor management committee per our contract. That probably won't start for another 30 days. Summer, people are on vacation and so on and so forth. So, but that's something that I thought would be necessary and important for our town and our police department. Tuesday is August 1st is National Night Out, and it's also again going to be the mayor's backpack giveaway. It's the second year that we coincide both events in an effort to try to streamline our resources. And the only thing I want to bring up in that's it. In public safety, that concludes my report. Everything else is fine. Let's go to code enforcement, Chairperson Vimati.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Except your town hall, which is a great idea as far as let's get, that we talked about earlier with regards to the recycle. Planning and zoning, Tischler Bice. Do we have an update?
The results are in. I will be sending them to you.
Okay.
And scheduling for Carson to come in.
Before you go on vacation, you promised us, right?
Yes.
Okay, I have that down. You go on vacation after 4th of July, I have you down.
I will
You're leaving us for your birthday, I know that too.
I will be joining you on Saturday. I will
Okay.
be cooking, and then I will be leaving.
Okay, okay, so we'll have this Friday. Okay, Chairperson Mathis, Admin and Finance.
I have only received one evaluation.
Is that mine?
No, I haven't gotten yours.
I sent it.
I haven't, I've only received, well, I have
What did you
mine,
send, the filled
but
in one?
I have,
The filled out one.
To where?
Oh, yeah, to you? Yeah, and then I copied, well, I didn't copy, I forwarded it, or whatever.
Is it an email?
I'll read,
No,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll
Okay.
recheck, I'll recheck it.
please get those to
Yeah,
Eunice.
well. Okay, does that conclude your report?
When's the rest of the council going to be submitting their?
By the count, and I hope that we can discuss it at the next Admin and Finance meeting next week?
If I'm here. Yes.
Okay, good, that'd be important.
Does that
Okay.
mean like a week?
Huh?
So by the next?
Yes.
Awesome.
All right, so, and that concludes your report? All right, good. Attorney Geller, thank you for being here. Would you like to enlighten us with anything?
One quick thing, we did get a communication from the PBA. Their agreement will be expiring, so we're going to be beginning the process of starting a new round of collective bargaining. So any member of the council that has any thoughts, would like to see any changes of any kind in the agreement that you'd like us to begin to introduce as we move forward with bargaining, probably most efficient if you get it to the manager, but we'll proceed forward with that. Of course, those are open sessions. Any member of the council that would like to attend is certainly welcome to attend, but if any of you do intend to attend, you need to give us enough advance notice so that the clerk can post it as a meeting where more than one member of council may be present. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. There is no unfinished business, there is no new business. Anybody in good and welfare would like to come in and add comment? I do want to take a moment and recognize Charles Scott, who came in sort of an hour there that we did not recognize him from Congresswoman Frederica Wilson's office. Thank you for always attending our meetings.
If I may share with you quickly.
Okay.
Forgive me. And thank you for the opportunity to be before you on behalf of the Congresswoman. As always, she's always interested in what goes on here and wants me to keep apprised of it. That's what I do every time I come. And I'm more than happy to see where, Mr. Manager, you've gotten in the process of this wastewater and stormwater treatment systems with this going with the septic tank. It's a critical issue going forward, especially in light of the global issues relative to global warming. It's not only prevalent here, but it's rising all over the world. It's an environmental issue of serious impact all along the eastern seaboard of the United States and other parts of the country that are low-lying. And it has a serious implication going forward as far as health issues concerned. Mr. Vice Mayor, let me share something with you very quickly. The day before I came here, one reason why I was late coming here today, I had to erect 10 banners on behalf of the Congresswoman to Walgreens stores, which have partnered with the Congresswoman to try and make the public aware of the health crisis that we have going on in South Florida at the present time. South Florida, for a number of years now, would be number one in the country, in fact, North America, for AIDS per capita. And it's been, to some degree, out of public eye. For some reason, maybe you can understand, quote unquote, the politics of it. There are two zip codes, 33142 and 33147, have by far the highest number of cases of any zip code in the country, by far. And I say that to you because it's something I have to go to the public and speak about constantly. We are the third largest state Florida is in the nation. And we carry some serious demographic indicators that are adverse. And unfortunately, a lot of them are in the Congresswoman's district. That's why I have to stay abreast of all of them. And this is one of the most prevailing ones because seriously going forward, the new health bill before the Senate at the present time have direct impact on this particular community relative to health concerns. I will tell you that that is a major bill that needs to be watched for anyone living in South Florida because we are one of the highest per capita recipients of federal health and medical benefits. We have a very geriatric population for the most part, and we have a very large recipient population that have needs. So a lot of it retired here because of the climate and other things that made it feasible for them to come here in the first place. And now we have this population being given an extra burden as they get into senior years to literally be burdensome with healthcare issues as well as housing problems becoming another prevalent issue as well. So I'm not going to stay long. I know you're even far spent, but definitely what you said earlier is very, very true, and it's been that way for some time. And there are other indicators as well. We're number 2 in the world for human trafficking in the world, not just the United States. You see? And these are indicators that I have to deal with in terms of the community. Last night there was a meeting in Liberty City, and I had to deal with some of these issues over there even. But I bring it to your awareness and your consciousness because this community is right in part of that entire corridor. And it's some things later on maybe as time allows. I'll be happy to expound upon, you know. But I'm happy you raised the issue because quite frankly, we need to become more aware of it and take more proactive measures to deal with it. Because if we don't, it's a very serious situation going forward, especially in light of the cost of health care for our community. Thank you so much.
Definitely, if you have your card, leave it with me. I want to get more involved with those type of situations, and the Congresswoman, whatever I can ever do to assist her with anything, doesn't matter. I'll carry boxes from Walgreens to Walmart. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm always, I'll always be there, and that's not just talk.
No, I appreciate
They'll
that.
let you know I get out and walk, and I'll walk the whole village 4 in the morning. It doesn't matter, 3 in the morning. So when it comes to stuff like that, I never think I'm above or anything like that to get my hands dirty. I'm always willing, so.
I certainly will bring it to
Thank you very
awareness.
much.
I thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Bless you.
time, Mr.
God bless
Scott.
you.
Thank you for
you.
being here. Please our regards to the Congresswoman on behalf of Elport Town.
And my mayor. Thank you so much.
Anybody else in good and welfare at this time? Hearing none. At this time, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion's been made by Councilperson Mathis. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilperson Dre. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none. Our regular council meeting on Tuesday, June 27th adjourns at 10:13 PM.
Thank you.